You might want to unblur your screen there, mate.
Man, I forgot I blurred myself. There you go.
Welcome back to the Opposition Podcast. I'm sorry about the technical issues. You can't help it, you know. Indians, they're great at technical support. Sri Lankans, they're not the
Not so
real
much.
thing. Not the real thing. Not the real deal.
It's island lifestyle here, man. Everyone's too chill to be fully in the tech support frame of mind. So that's why
How's your holiday?
working holiday. So I don't want to give the false impression I'm just here on a holiday. I'm actually doing work. That's why you see me once in a while here on these podcasts as well. But it's
I didn't know
very
Lydia
good.
Thorpe. I didn't know Lydia Thorpe was in Sri Lanka at the moment.
I'm actually in the capital city now, in Colombo. So I wasn't up tea country. Now I'm in the heart of the city, the port city of Colombo. So
Is it nice?
It's nice. Yeah, I'm in a nice hotel room. Lots of hotels around here. Lots of tourists. So there's always options available, and it's decent pricing as well. So it's pretty good.
The last time we saw Sri Lanka on the news, it was like mayhem. It looked like the Gaza Strip. And that was only about a year ago. What happened? How did it become nice suddenly?
Well, I mean, I think that was two years ago now. It's always nice. There was a bit of an uprising there by the people, regime change forced by the people of Sri Lanka who.
And did it work?
Well, yeah. I mean, they ended up having elections, very peaceful, and they voted in someone different. So yeah,
Are they happy with their government? Has the regime change been successful?
I think so, yeah, overall. You still hear people saying things like, well, not much has changed and things like this, but obviously it takes a long time to undo, years and years of something that the previous government might have done, however you look at it. So, overall, I think people are happy with the current, people that are in charge, the regime, if you want to call it. But yeah, it's an elected government, and I think they're doing pretty good.
So you're telling me that if the people rise up and they overthrow the government, it doesn't necessarily mean all hell is going to break loose. There's a chance that it could end well.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, that's kind of the way that these democracies are kind of set up. Obviously, we want to go to elections and things like this, but there does happen to be times where the people have to get to the streets and protest or whatever it is and make it be known.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked because on Twitter or X today, all day, the last few days, everybody's become a geopolitical expert about regime changes, and I didn't know that there was ever a successful regime change.
I mean, that's what you'd think reading X, right? You'd think there's never been a successful regime change. You'd think there's never been a successful war that's been fought by the West, especially. You think that's never happened in the history of the world. So it's crazy times that we're living in because I guess we'll get to that a bit later on anyway.
Yeah, we're going to start local. So. We're going to start local. I just had to point out because you said regime change and you bamboozled me straight away with your nonsense, with your lived experience there in Sri Lanka. Well, okay, let's start local. Tonight, well, I want to welcome everybody. We've got 2,889 starting with us. Last night we ended with 15,000 lives. So, guys, like it, smash the share, spread the word. We're growing each episode. I see the numbers, analytics are coming in, and we are growing as a show. So, thanks to everyone that tunes in. Thanks to everyone that's liking and sharing and commenting, all that good stuff. You're the ones that make this possible, and make sure to subscribe and subscribe to the channel that you're watching this on, whatever platform you're watching on, especially YouTube, and hit the notification bell so you get the live feeds when we go live. Aside from that, chats, what you're seeing down here, that's it. There. That is the live, we're not controlled, your comments from YouTube, just scrolling through. So if you want your comment in there, make sure to get involved in the chat on YouTube. Now, super chats, we're going to bring up every single super chat. Those are paid comments on either of Rukshan's or my YouTube channels. And we're going to read it. You can direct the conversation. You can actually, a few times people have commented something random and we've gone on down some rabbit hole because mate, we'll do anything for money. So make sure to get involved in the conversations. And the super chats, it does support our work. It does help make this possible for us to be able to even do these shows. We're doing it twice a week. I've been loving them, and partly loving it because the audience is growing and the audience is participating and getting involved. And so thank you. Having said all that, let's get straight into it. There's two wild local stories. I don't know if you've been watching what's been happening in Australia.
Yeah, no, definitely been following very closely.
My daughter's been real proud because I've been saying Australia.
Well done. Well done.
She's very proud. She told me she's taken it's a source of much pride for her because she's fought me for a long time about it, and I finally, because we were actually driving to school, and I've never understood, because she always made fun of the way I said Australia, and she just didn't stop to explain to me what syllables I was missing when I was pronouncing the word wrongly. And then she goes, you never say the L and the I, Australia. And I'm like, oh, why didn't you just say that? And then I'll work on it. I'm not trying. She goes, you sound like such a bogan. You sound so uneducated. Why would anyone listen to you? I go, no one does listen to me. That's why we have Rukshan on the show, so that we have somebody that sounds like they make sense. So the two big stories making news here in Australia in the last couple of days. First, let's just watch them.
This video contains content that may be confronting.
Sex crime detectives zero in on a home in southwest Sydney. They bring out 19-year-old Adam Abdul Hamid. He's one of 4 teenagers, the youngest being a 14-year-old boy, accused of gang raping a 17-year-old girl over a 6-hour period.
Not just instantaneously, but over a 6-hour period, continuing to act together and encourage each other.
Police say a 16-year-old boy approached the girl at Liverpool Westfield and followed her to the car park late last year. When she reluctantly let him in her car, he allegedly assaulted her and refused to leave unless she drove him to a nearby park.
She obviously felt that that was the only way to get him out of her car.
But when they arrived, 2 other males allegedly entered the car and assaulted her before a 4th joined them.
They drove rather erratically throughout the time and continued to degrade and assault this victim.
Police say parts of the attack were filmed. The 16-year-old allegedly video called his co-accused during the initial assault here at Westfield, before several other recordings were made over the following 6 hours.
When the girl was finally left alone, she reported the incident to police.
As a mother, I am just absolutely beside myself.
Days later, a 16-year-old was arrested along with the 14-year-old boy. 6 months later, an 18-year-old and the 19-year-old were also taken into custody. Today, the oldest, Adam Abdul Hamid, did not apply for bail.
Will your client be defending these charges?
My client maintains his innocence.
All 4 males currently remain behind bars. Ethan Ricks, ABC News, Sydney.
If you or any...
That is
horrific story.
Truly horrific attack.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more of that. I think we talked about, a couple of weeks ago when we were discussing the African crime gang wave in Melbourne. We're talking about similar incident in Queensland, where a woman was gang raped in front of her partner during the commission of a crime as well. I'm not sure if that was filmed, but we're seeing these elements of this kind of devious, evil crimes and the callous nature in which they're carried out, especially by young men, even teens, and the filming and the way it's been perpetrated over a number of hours, and of course the gang element of it as well. And it's very disturbing to see that happening more and more in Australia, and we're seeing on X and other platforms where people are talking about this. I think all over social media, at least where I've seen the comments, people are horrified that this is what Australia is now. Now, I know this has happened in previous decades, and it's not like something that's a rare occurrence, even though it's not as frequent as we see in other parts of the world. But I think there is a angle there, Alvi, where people are looking at this now and thinking, this is actually becoming more and more common. It's actually becoming worse because we have police and law enforcement, governments ignoring much of the driving force behind why these types of crimes are occurring in our society.
Well, firstly, I want to say that the fact that we don't hear about it much doesn't mean it's not happening. This is just one girl that went and reported it. And we know, looking overseas with these immigrants, so if you look at in the UK, the grooming gang scandal that they have unfolding there, we didn't hear about it for years until people like Tommy came out and started speaking about it, and they got condemned at first as racists. And then it turned out that not only was it true, it was much bigger than anyone ever thought. It was covered up by the authorities out of the fear of being called racist. I just want you to think for a second, because I've got two daughters, and they're at that exact age. And as a parent, I can't imagine what that parent is going through. The thought that, or the girl herself, she left a shopping centre. All our kids, anyone that has teenage kids knows they go to, like, shopping centre is a place where they almost, especially girls, they go to shopping for hours like that. That's where they hang out. That's part of what they do these days. And she left the shopping centre. She was basically he was an adult. I think it was the older one that approached her at first, stood over her, forced his way into her car, driving around, sexually assaulting her, calling his friends, who actually, I think they were the younger ones, but it doesn't matter, and getting, basically showing off his crime to them, humiliating her. And I can't help but say there is a cultural element to this as well. Remember the Scaff gang? We've had this before where it actually came to public. This has happened before, and I think Rebel Today actually launched a petition an hour ago, and I think people are jumping on it, deporttherapists.com, because people are livid. People are angry about this. And this is not something we're used to. The only other one that I can think of is the Scaff gang, and the one that you just mentioned in Queensland. And these are both also immigrant gangs that committed these heinous crimes. The worst of the worst, almost. I don't know what could be worse. She was a child. And I don't care that 3 of them were underage as well. They did an adult crime. They should do adult time. Plus, they should all be named and shamed. They've only named and shamed one of them because he happens to be over 18. All of them should be named and shamed. There should be legislation passed that if you are part of such crimes, firstly, if you're an immigrant, boom, out. Do your time, get out. And secondly, you should be named and shamed to warn everybody when you do get out, like the Scaff boys, like the Scaff gang, that everybody knows who you are. I don't know what the law is. I don't know if that after they turn 18, if they can be identified. I'm pretty sure they can't because they were under 18 when it happens. They need to be named and shamed to protect future victims, because a normal person doesn't do that.
Yes.
No, a normal person doesn't have the urge to firstly sexually assault a girl, rape her, then call his mates to join in.
Yeah.
And
I think there's lots of elements here. So
and normal and like not like if my friend as a teenager called me and was showing me that, I would call the police straight away. I wouldn't go, hey, bring her to me so I can have a turn too.
Well,
there is a problem here.
Yeah, definitely. Because, first of all, the victim is very brave for going to the police. That's so
in those communities, you got people don't understand. I don't know if she's also from the community. She's from that area. Exactly. I don't know, but living in that area. You know what? Even if you're just an Aussie that lives in that area, which is quite, an Arab, an Islamic area, you even saw when he was getting arrested, the guy's brother was swearing at police in Arabic. They said that I think Daily Mail was reporting exactly what he was saying, like threatening police in Arabic, like So imagine you're the victim, and you've got to come. Cross paths with their families, with the cousins. They've got huge families. They're violent. You see all the, even when they were attacking the nurses, when that whole thing with the nurses happened, and you saw how the family back, they're like gangsters. They're criminals, and they're vile people that will, instead of instead of coming out and going, I can't believe my brother has committed such a horrific offence, they turn it on the police. They turn it on the victims. And yes, she is brave. Good on her. Thank goodness she's come forward. And I hope more victims from those communities do come out.
Yeah, because it is a crime that happens more than that we know. And it is, like you mentioned at the start, very underreported. I kind of commented on that online and got a bit of slack from some people because I was mentioning, cultures and things like this. But there is a cultural element to this type of crime as well. There is this kind of view of women, or sometimes it's targeted towards certain women who are not from that community because
that's what happened with the Scaff Boys. They targeted white girls, and it's just like what you're seeing in the UK.
And in the UK, obviously that was very targeted, and they view those women as lower than them, or they can commit those. This is the thing, right? In some cultures, in some ways, this is not even seen as the same type of crime, or it's not understood as the same type of crime as it is understood in the Western context. Like, it's really hard for people to get their minds around that's why there's always sometimes this kind of gang element to it where they get people to join in. In the UK, this happened a lot. It's like this kind of thing that they do, and it's crazy, right? It's so common in the West in that manner where it's done so carelessly. And when people find out about it sometimes within these communities, it's dismissed as well. It's like, well, what did the girl do? Was she asking for it? Did she deserve it? Like, it's all these kind of things that play into this type of crime happening. And also, I brought up the subtext of, we saw during October 7th, and this is what people got worked up about, but we saw during October 7th, even women within certain communities were dismissing the stories about the rapes and those things that took place during that time. They're like, no, that didn't happen. Or if it did happen, it was an act of resistance. Like these kind of things are said within certain cultures and communities that it's not understood in the same way in the West, where rape, this kind of humiliation of women, is seen as a weapon that can be used because, they deserve it, or they're an enemy, or number of reasons that, we can't really understand exactly for this particular case yet. And, people just don't want to believe that that's happening in Australia as well in some instances. And it can become more and more frequent to the extent where we have grooming gangs in Australia as well. And people might look at that and be like, oh, well, Rukshan, it's a lot of hyperbole, you're exaggerating. But no, if these things are not stamped out, if people are not culturally assimilated to understand what the rights of women in that society are and how people should be treated, then you're going to have these problems escalate over time. And, we definitely don't want to see that in Australia. We don't want young girls in Australia fearing when they're out in the shops or going out about their normal lives. No one in this country deserves to live like this and with this kind of fear. So it's very important that authorities crack down on it. But I think I've already seen, I don't know if it's the police commissioner, Avi, or whoever else, I don't know if you can bring up the comments, but she made this whole thing about how Australian men have to do better. Like that was their response to this thing, by saying, well, Australian men have to do better. I don't think this is commonly like a Australian thing. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's really hard to.
Give me the example. I want to know.
Sexual assaults do happen.
Fine. I'm saying this
rapes
type
happen,
of
rape
these
happen,
gang rapes.
all these things happen.
Give me an example.
Yes.
Give me an example of an Aussie gang raping scenario that there has been, or known ones. I can't think of any. The only other ones are the two examples in recent times. Are the two examples that you give me? I'm going to see if I can find
those comments.
The full just the full police commissioner press conference, I guess.
Yeah.
Look, I think yeah.
No, I was going to say, like in Europe, we see this. Parts of Europe where there's lots of asylum seekers or illegal migration of people coming to the country who are not assimilated, and these men from these different cultures who have no understanding of what it's so hard to explain. Like, we know it's happening, we know what the problem is, we know that it is a part of it is driven by these cultural aspects, we know a lot of it has to do with immigration, but the West, the powers that be, don't want to touch this topic. Like, even in this instance, even if it's shown to be all these things, there'll be things like people are saying things like, oh, well, they're born in Australia, so it's an Australian problem. But I'm telling you, it comes from the upbringing and the understanding and the role of women in society. And
I can't find that thing.
That's right. Some aspects of cultures are just not compatible with Western culture, and that's how you end up with little kids in gangs, gang raping people. Like, it's just,
Daniel, I know you're watching this because I think actually, because they started a petition saying deport the rapists.com, and everyone goes sign it. I saw it's already starting to pick up online in the last hour, but I would say it needs to call for three things. They basically need to be named and shamed, charged and tried like adults, do the time, do the crime, do the crime, do the time, proper crime. Like, you're doing an adult crime, you're doing a horrific crime, be treated as such. And thirdly, be deported. If we can deport you, if there's any way to deport, if they are new immigrants, deport them. And we need to look at our whole immigration program, that when we have serious offences committed by new immigrants, that even after they are given citizenship, we should be able to pull it. We should be able to pull it. We need to set up the system where, because we had all the European immigration, 50 years ago. You weren't seeing these problems. But now in the later waves of immigration from either Africa or the Middle East, you are seeing these problems. And if you're hell-bent on bringing them in, well, at least have a safety net. And the safety net needs to be able to kick these people out. They should not be our problem, because even if you put them through our system, they're going to get out of jail at some point. And do you think a leopard changes his spots? Like, they're going to come out of jail and do it again. None of the women in Australia are going to be safe. Australia are going to be safe from this. Let's read a couple of the super chats.
I was actually reading. I'll just make one more comment. I was reading some of the comments. Someone was saying, "Well, it's not," because I'm saying it's hard to explain, and someone's saying it's not that hard to explain. What I'm trying to say is, I guess, if it was a gang of white Australian men, let's say, that did this, the reaction from authorities would be very different in terms of targeting the issue and the way that they talk about it. But because it's not in this instance, then everyone is labeled as the problem. So that's why the response of the police is, Australian men have issues that they need to sort out. You know what I mean? So it's not targeted. That's why these issues persist. You had to get through almost 2 decades of these gang rapes in the UK, right? And, Tommy Robinson speaking about it, all these people speaking about it. And those people then being dismissed and labeled as conspiracy theorists, thrown in jail. All these things happen in the UK. Now for Keir Starmer and the Labour Party there to think like, oh, well, we're going to start an inquiry into this. And there's people in that side of politics now gloating about how they are being responsible and starting an inquiry into this. So it takes a lot of time before the systems in the West, the political systems, the leaders in our countries have the courage and the moral clarity to call this for what it is when it starts happening over and over and over again. And that's the hard part to explain as to why they do this. We know, but it's hard to get that into other people's minds as well, because a lot of people move on from this and then they see the next event and they don't connect the dots that it's actually becoming a problem.
Yep. And do not let them call you racist for pointing out the problems, because that's what they do. That's the oldest trick in the book. That's what they do every time. That's what they did for years in the UK. And look where that got the UK. Look what happened to Britain. And finally today, all the people who denied. Here, I'll give you the perfect example of it.
There's some good examples of it. I've seen some of them being called out on X. It's pretty hilarious because
this one's great.
It's just so hypocritical. It's just so hypocritical. The same people that voted down or called people conspiracy theorists on the grooming gangs in the UK are now the ones that are trying to claim that they're spearheading the whole thing into looking into it. It's just ridiculous.
Let me pull one up, because this was the perfect example of how they gaslight you. Okay, here we go. So you got Owen Jones. You know Owen Jones?
Yes.
A lovely character from the UK who's been on the wrong side of history on everything.
About vulnerable white girls being targeted by British Pakistani grooming gangs. Now, that is the sort of thing you would have expected to read in BNP leaflets and which not that long ago would actually have been condemned by Tory and Labour politicians alike. But we are in 2023 in the worst possible timeline. It's not true. It's really important to make this very, very clear. It isn't true about...
So what you understand, the reference there, the BNP, that's the neo-Nazi party that there was. So what he was saying is, it sounds like a racist rhetoric. That's simply not true. Now let's look at the same guy. So that's in 2023. That's not even that long ago. 2 years ago. That's one of Tommy Robinson's biggest critics, who has me banned on thing because I'm a Jew. He's one of the ones that have. He himself has denied the rapes in October 7 in Israel. He's he's one of those far left wing extremists that is talks in the media all the time. Let's see if I can quickly find his video saying the exact opposite today, or in the last... Hold on, isn't it? Oh no, that's Israel. Okay, you got to get past all his Israel hate.
There's a lot of flip-flopping.
Oh, he's
going on these days.
Israel this, Israel that. Let's see if I can find... Anyways, there's a video that he just did where he's basically saying he never said it was racist to talk about it, and obviously it's true. The polar opposite of, and he was trending for it. Let me see if I can quickly find it, because it's pretty funny to show these people are liars, gaslighters, and they're always wrong. Oh, here we go. Yep, I got it.
Nowhere did I deny that British men of Pakistani origin had raped many white girls in, for example, Rotherham and Telford. These are horrific scandals, which are very much real, and it is not racist or untrue to talk about those scandals.
About vulnerable white girls being targeted by British
Pakistani
grooming gangs. Now, that is the sort of thing you would have expected to read in BNP leaflets, and which not that long ago would actually have been condemned by Tory and Labour politicians alike. But we are in 2023 in the worst possible time.
There you go. So there you have it. 2 years apart. Completely denies everything he said. Labelled everyone racist who dared to call it out. And there is an ethnic element to this. Make no mistake. And I promise you now, this is a much bigger problem than we know. Okay? The victim here was brave. And unless you're willing to consider those ethnic elements to it, you're never going to get on top of it. And again, like we said before, we don't see Aussie rape gangs running around.
People have made a few examples in the comments. I'll just be upfront about they're bringing up some examples. I'm sure it happens in all countries. There's examples of this. I think it's more so the way that these issues are ignored, Avi, which is the real issue. So you saw that video that you shared where he was kind of saying it wasn't happening when there was so much, very obvious evidence of it was happening in those small towns in the UK. So that is the issue, or where the issue where you have politicians deny that it's happening because they don't want to get into race politics.
What are the examples they gave? I'm interested in these examples. What are they? You're talking about crimes like this where they're grooming or targeting?
Where like a group of white men might have gang raped a white woman or something like this. There was a few names that they put up where there's been instances in Australia, far and far between. But the thing is, it's not we have to find, especially when you're looking at the UK, it's a targeted crime.
Well, the Scaff gang was targeted as well. And,
exactly. So
and
there's a different
this one will be interesting to find out if it was targeted. Okay, let's just read some of these chats now.
It's from Ebony Jane. Thanks for the super chat. These are teenagers doing this. Teenagers. This is insanely terrifying. We need more masculinity to protect women and children, not less. Yeah, and this is exactly the problem. Younger and younger people are doing this. So there was one in France the other day where they raped a young Jewish girl, I believe, for 4 teenagers. They dragged her into like an abandoned apartment complex. They got her to say that she's Jewish or whatever.
12. She was 12. She was 12. They were 14.
Yeah, and the whole time they were humiliating her, and they gang raped her. These 4 people. So. These 4 kids, so teenagers, again, younger and younger, these criminals are becoming that are doing this, and they're doing it to younger and younger girls as well. So it is sick, it is depraved. And we need to get a handle on this before it becomes a problem, because I think it is becoming a problem in Australia.
And if you listen to the Greens, who want to import more of these groups that, again, in that case, in Paris that you're talking about, they were also ethnic refugee, or kids of refugees from the Middle East. And if you listen to the Greens policies, they want to import more of those. Plus, they want to lift the age of criminal responsibility. And they want to also drop the age of voting. Do you understand where we're heading if they get what they want? So firstly, they want to import more of this, which is inevitably, especially if we're not allowed to talk about it, going to allow more of this to fester and happen and get away with it. And if the UK is anything to go by, it's actually going to be the victims that are shamed and silenced, and anyone that talks about it going to be labelled racist. And then they're going to lift the criminal age of responsibility, that 14-year-olds wouldn't actually even be tried for rape, so they would have a free pass to go around in gangs to do it. And then they're going to drop the age of voting till, I think they want 16, to the same age as criminal responsibility. So these criminal rapists are going to be allowed to vote as well, because they'll make us perfect choices for our future.
And usually what happens, they get a slap on the wrist. These young ones probably be protected. It sounds wrong, but that's usually what happens in the West. One of the solutions that I came up with, Avi, when I was talking about this on X, was, again, I got criticism for this, but I think, if you have cultures where women, for instance, are not viewed as equals, it's a big problem to then import those cultures into the West. Where if you have a culture you're importing into the West where women are looked as second-class citizens, for instance, within that culture, they don't get to enjoy the same rights and freedoms that everyone else in that, in Australia, for instance, enjoys. Then it's a problem, because if you instantly have cultural incompatibility. You have a group of people that view women differently. They don't view them as equals in that society. So if they don't view their own cultural women in that way, then other cultures, other women in that country, Australians, whatever you want to say, will be viewed differently as well. And I think that's at odds with this whole idea about having these socially cohesive societies. I think people have to give things up when they come to Australia. So if you can't give up, the way that you treat women,
if you can't give up your gang rape, don't come.
No, don't come to Australia. So if you can't integrate and accept that there's equality before between sexes and things like this, concepts which are why the West is successful. If you want to go around changing these ideas and things like this, it doesn't work. And we're seeing more and more as these groups are brought into the West. There's no assimilation. There's no, even a push by the government to kind of call out these abuses that we're seeing in society by these migrant groups. You're going to have this massive issue where you end up with UK rape gangs. I mean, that's how it started, right? So, you had decades and decades of Pakistani immigration in the UK. They brought them there to work in the mills and all this kind of stuff, and fabrics and all these things, right? And at the start, it seemed all great. But over time, as governments became more kind of, this whole idea about diversity and stopped ignoring the main tenets of that Western society in the UK, then these other elements started taking over. They took over whole towns, like what we're seeing now that's happening. And then they started, really dominating the cultural aspects of that area. And then people were unable to actually even, make authorities act on the crimes which are happening within their societies to their own children in those areas. Like it's insane how that happened over a period of about 30 years to being a problem of having such significance that the UK Parliament today has to have these massive inquiries into how the hell it all happened. Like, it's crazy. We do not want to have a situation in Australia where in 20 years' time, we have a prime minister standing up there saying we need to look into the grooming gangs that happened in Australia. Like, it happens. It happens in England. It can happen here. So,
and you're right. Like, so, but I don't know if the onus is on those we're bringing in. Well, partly it is, of course. If you come here, if you can't separate yourself from your backwards, or the parts of your culture that is so backwards, then don't come. But it's also the onus is on us to know who we're bringing in, to understand the cultures we're importing, to know whether that risk comes and if there is something we can do about it to protect ourselves if you're hell-bent on bringing them in. But somebody made a good point in the comments here. They said ban machetes, cars and women, and then we just won't have these problems.
That's kind of that seems to be the approach of our leaders.
Let's smash up these super chats quickly. Another one from Ebony. Thank you.
Thanks, Ebony. Pepper spray is only legal in WA. I try to buy some, but they won't ship it to Melbourne. It's illegal. Absolute BS. I mean, that's another thing, right?
Well, I did that. Legalisepepperspray.com. I hope you signed the petition, Ebony. But we were talking about that the other day because the Northern Territory, which is having massive problems with, again, youth gangs, they are legalising pepper spray for self-defence. And the same naysayers are fighting it and saying that, you shouldn't be able to have this defensive tool. I've been actively calling for the legalisation of pepper spray from when I used to own gyms. So we're talking about 15 years I've been fighting for pepper spray in Victoria. I absolutely think that that's the bare minimum we can do. Anyone that has a daughter should be screaming from the rooftops that you should be allowed to that they should be allowed to be armed with pepper spray to protect them from things like imagine that girl had some pepper spray on her in the first instance when that first guy came to her, and she just pulled it out of her handbag and sprayed him in the face. She would have had enough time to get away instead of being gang raped by 4 people. Yeah, it's insanity. It's absolutely right. So. LegalizePepperspray.com or deporttherapist.com. Sign both those petitions. There we go. Petition night. Let's go. Abby, one of our good friends here. Abby,
thanks again. Nice to see you on the stream again. Thoughts on post and boast bill? Post and boast bill.
This
is new to us as well. Post. I think that's the if you post it online, like if you take the film and you post it and you boast about it, like the criminality element, it should be higher. So that's just recently been discussed. So criminals who boast on social media to face 2 more years in jail. I mean, that's good. I think that's good. If you film it and you put it online, your criminality should increase because you're actually celebrating your crime. You should automatically get 2 more years in jail. I mean, why not?
If I'm just looking at it on the face of it. But sometimes this legislation you need to take a closer look at because you don't know what they're hiding in it. So the intent seems they weaponize the language of the legislation.
Yeah, I mean, look, they could do like, you posted a COVID protest online, we're going to give you 2 more years. Like this is the problem. This is the problem with the West.
So
because
if it was
sneaky governments,
always
try to push something else through.
But I do agree with the idea. So if it's very clear and the parameters are, the boundaries are set clearly that, for example, like that kid a few weeks ago who was bashed at the party and they Snapchatted them beating him and robbing him. Yeah, I think throw an extra 2 years for boasting about it. 100%. 100%. Jimmy's just given us a super chat. Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate your support. Without your support.
It's always chipping in. Thanks, mate.
Yeah. You don't even have to make a comment. You'll get a shout out. But really, thank you for that super chat.
This is Danger Dan. Oh, guys, Danger Dan. If you're not following Danger Dan, I'm telling you to check him out on YouTube. Subscribe. He puts up really funny videos of particularly our Prime Minister, Albanese. It's very good. It's very well done.
I've never even heard of him. Have I seen his?
You have. We talked about him before. He cuts together lots of different instances of, something that happens during the week between the Prime Minister and whatever.
Maybe we've got to bring him on the show.
Puts overlays. I don't know if he does face to camera.
He doesn't. Maybe he can put on. Maybe we can bring him on the show, and he can just have pre-prepared automatic responses from the Prime Minister, and he can just answer from the Prime.
That sounds fun. But let me read his super chat. Thanks for the super chat, mate. The only thing that can force Australia back on track is ordinary people waking up one morning to find their freedoms, their prosperity, and ultimately their happiness have vanished. I mean, I share those sentiments. Like once it's kind of happened in Sri Lanka, right? Once things get really bad, that's when people kind of realize and take a stand. And that's what happened 2 years ago in Sri Lanka when they kind of overthrew their government. But to get to that point, everything hits the fan. Shit hits the fan. Everything gets really, 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 really bad. And the most important thing is to do that before it gets there. And a lot of the shows that we do, Avi, and what a lot of like Danger Dan does and other people do is to kind of raise awareness and bring these issues up much quicker. Talk about things which are uncomfortable. Like, it's uncomfortable to talk about race and religion and these things, but it's sometimes the motivating factor or the driving force behind some of these crimes. Multiculturalism is an issue. Like, so it's good that it's being discussed more. I definitely agree. And the more and more people have to put up with crime, the more and more people will become vocal about it, for sure. But there are still elements within our society. COVID is a great example where people want to put their head under the pillow and pretend it's not happening and kind of go with what the government tells them to do. And a lot of the time that works in some instances, but if you want to protect your society, protect your community, protect your way of life and the future of Australia, for instance, you need to really be vocal about some of these issues in a respectful way. There's ways to do this. So that's my sentiments based on Danger Dan's comments.
Last super chat for now.
Cruel Intentions. Thanks, mate. Evening, blokes. The Aussie Greens Party needs to be prescribed as a terrorist organisation. I think Avi would definitely agree, and I would agree as well with that one.
Their behaviour since October 7, I would say that they have incited plenty of violence, plenty of hate. They've supported terrorists. I interviewed a lot of Greens members in the lead up to the election, and they've got no shame in, firstly, denying the horrors of what happened on October 7, but also, like you said, when they can't deny it, they just explain it away as resistance. So things like rape as resistance, things like butchering and murdering innocent civilians, babies, kidnapping, children. They'll dismiss it as legitimate form of resistance, which means by definition, because these are the same people who think we're on stolen land here, and all those same arguments that they attribute to Hamas about Israel, they also make about Australia and the white man to the Aboriginals. So, I know that you're half joking, I think, but I think that it's a pretty serious issue.
Yeah, I think so. And look, kids we've seen during the pro-Palestine protests, for instance, it's good to protest the word, because of course, but we did see elements where the children were getting involved, like schools were protesting, kids were coming out of schools. There were days just for, kids to, give up school and protest. And the themes around that as well is all about also denying the legitimacy of what happened at that time, where rape, things like this are dismissed or it's seen as an act of resistance, and it's a different context. So we don't, you guys in the West, you don't really understand what happened during that time. You can't call it rape. It's not the same thing. All this kind of nonsense, right? And these things are not being rejected by a broad section of our community, as well as our leaders, and especially organizations, political parties like the Greens, who seem to kind of, brush over all of that and just push their ideological views onto that. And I think it's bad for Australian society, because that's not who we are. These foreign elements, these foreign cultures and their ways of thinking should not come into play in terms of leading the future of Australia in that light. Like, there are reasons the West is successful. And the more and more you introduce these kind of foreign elements of ideas about, what rape is, what resistance means, and why it's okay to do what we did that day, and all these kind of things, it's just not. I just think that's completely against the way the West should look at itself. We should have our own identity, characterize it as such. Black for a second.
You've frozen on us. Do you want to?
Frozen. I'll just you can keep going, and I'll just realign my camera.
There we go. Look at that. I used to look up to you as a technical god, but lately he's let us down. This Rukshan.
It's pretty hard in hotel rooms and stuff when you're traveling to deliver.
We appreciate you. All right, read this last super chat that you got, because you were waffling on, and we got another super chat, and then we'll jump on to the next story.
This is from Regina. Thanks, Regina. Shouldn't be allowed to vote until 35 years old. Oh, I mean, there's a case for that as well, but
I definitely don't lower the age, and I think that there might be a good argument to be made to make it older, lift it, make it whole. At 20, 21.
Maybe like some other requirements, like you got to be working or have. I think someone put for an idea. You got to be like have a family or something like this, or be married or
pay
have
tax.
a job. Like things
you got to pay tax.
Pay tax. Things like this. But I don't know. Like
I think if you pay tax,
it's a complicated one.
I think if you don't pay tax, you shouldn't get to say how we spend the money or how we run the country. Like, pay tax. But the problem is then, then they can abuse the system to ensure that everybody's dependent on welfare, and then the top 3 people. It's a problem. But I do agree that there is a, it just seems so unfair that everybody who lives off the government, so the taxpayers' teat, then get to vote to encourage more of that. Like, hold on, if I'm funding it. Look, our system's flawed, but it is one of the best in the world, to be fair. Like, there's no system's going to be perfect.
The standard. I know we discussed a lot about the issues of Australia, but when you start traveling around the world, you realize the standard of living is still very high in the West, in Australia. I mean,
but
Australia
if we're not careful, we'll lose it. We will lose it.
That's the thing. We will lose elements of it. And the first elements to go, I think, in this modern age, is the elements which are eroded through this kind of whole push for diversity, multiculturalism, all the kind of cultural nonsense that we hear a lot about. I don't think it works. I just don't think it works. I just think it's ridiculous. Like, if you go to another country, you should assimilate into that country and live by those values and standards. Like, when I go to the Middle East, when I've been to like places like Dubai, I don't try to impose, like, this is how we do it.
So when you go to the Middle East, do you start abusing your wife just to fit in?
No. But like,
I'm going to ask her.
I knew there's certain parts in the UAE where men and women don't dress a certain way. They don't do public affection like we do in the streets and stuff like this. So you respect those customs and norms, and society gets along great. I mean, we have freedom, but I think we push this idea of what that means to the extent of allowing things in to spoil the well of the freedom that we have. It's insane. And those are the things that we need to push back against.
All right, let's move on to the next story. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night.
For the second time in just a few weeks, shoppers have been forced to take refuge at Northland Shopping Centre in Melbourne. This time, a stolen car has been driven at speed through the centre. Incredibly, no one was injured. Reporter Leanne Wong joins us now live from the scene. Leanne, take us through what happened.
Well, Lorna, shoppers here say they can't believe what they saw, that just a few weeks after we saw that machete attack involving rival youth gangs, now a car has driven through the centre. Now, police say at about 4 p.m. they were called here of reports of a stolen white Land Cruiser that was parked in Northland's car park. When they've arrived, they've attempted to box in the car, and that's when the car took off, smashing its way through the entrance door on the opposite side of this centre near the Best and Less, and it's then sped through the centre, sending terrified shoppers diving for cover before smashing its way through this other exit where I'm situated right now. Now, remarkably and thankfully, no shoppers were struck by that speeding car. One woman was treated at the scene for shock. Here's what some witnesses had to tell me what they saw today.
The white ute has done a U-turn, at least going 30, at least, maybe 40, straight through, broken a bunch of these yellow pylons, straight through the door.
I was getting my nails done, and then I just heard so much loud noise, and then I looked to my left, and then I seen a car, this white car just driving fast.
I honestly feared for my life, because after what happened a couple of weeks ago with the stabbing, and now a car's gone through the building, it's kind of frightening.
So, Leanne, do the police have anyone in custody?
Well, police are actually still hunting for the driver of this allegedly stolen car. Now, the car was last seen coming out the entrance behind him, he's smashing its way through and driving towards Wood Street, and that's where police say they lost sight of him. However, they say they are confident they'll find him, and they've urged him to hand himself in to authorities.
Well, we've already got an update on that one.
I think they picked him up, didn't they?
Yes.
Breaking news out of Melbourne now. A shopping centre in the city's northeast has had to be evacuated for the second time in as many days, this time because of a fire. It comes as a man was arrested after an allegedly stolen car evaded police driving through the middle of the centre yesterday. Let's go live to Selena Zhang at Northland. Good morning, Selena. What can you tell us?
Well, as you say, Ali, it's been a second day in a row of chaos here at Northland Shopping Centre. There was an electrical fire in Maya just around 20 to 30 minutes ago, and shoppers had to be evacuated. You can see heavy smoke filling the centre and shoppers scrambling for the exit. Now, this all comes less than 24 hours after a stolen car drove through the centre yesterday around 4 p.m. Police have actually revealed some more details about the driver. He was shopping inside the centre. He's returned to his car, and that's when police have tried to corner him. He's then gotten behind the wheel, rammed the police a number of times before driving straight through the centre. He's rammed through the glass doors and actually hit a play area. Remarkably, no one was hurt, but staff who witnessed the whole ordeal yesterday are still coming to terms with what happened.
So I was stunned. My brain could not comprehend what was going on. Why was I seeing a car in front of our shop? Some of the staff were really distressed from last.
So, yeah, there you have it. So he was arrested. But like Regina says, right? Here, read this super chat. Thank you, Regina, for another super chat.
Ban cards.
And that's
well, I mean,
a lot of people make those jokes.
Ban shopping centres.
And well, that shopping centre particularly needs to probably be banned because that one seems to be attracting all these problems. But in all seriousness, this is this just proves that the machete ban is ridiculous. There is clearly problems going on in the community, and they're coming to these shopping centres. And our government's just like, I don't know, what are they going to do about a car now? Like, everyone is mocking the machete ban for several reasons since it's been implemented. Firstly, because the day after the machete ban happened, a kid gets bashed by a gang, the same kind of group that were part of the machete attacks, and they just didn't have a machete. And we saw axes, and we saw, so people are joking about that. And now we're seeing in the same exact place that we had the attack that caused that whole drama, they're now using a car. And we've seen cars being used as weapons for terrorist attacks around the world. So what are you going to do? Bank? Because it's not the car. It's not the weapon. It's not the machete. It's the people. Ban the criminals. Deport them. Deport the rapists. DeportTheRapist.com. Legalize the pepper spray. Empower the community to fight back in the most bare minimum way we can. But what the government does is the most ridiculous knee-jerk reactions that mean nothing. All they are trying to do is show the community that they are doing something. But they're really not doing anything. They're not doing anything.
Yeah, I agree. And, the comments, like you said, there's lots of great comments. I mean, I wish I could read a lot of them. They're quite funny given the situation, but it drives home that point, right? People are not taking governments and their actions seriously either. Like the fact that there's so many comments like this now where governments are doing these actions, people are just not taking it seriously. Like they see the reality of the world that they live in. And, they know that a ban on machetes is not going to change that reality. So I don't know, Avi, if we're going to get to a stage where, at least in the next, 1 or 2 years, especially in Victoria, where Jacinta Allen and her Labor cronies with an election coming up, and she's a bit on edge as well, if she might come out and be more forceful on these type of issues, I don't know. I don't know if it's so ingrained, this kind of woke nonsense about protecting these type of criminals that have gotten us into this mess, will stop her from doing that, even coming to an election when this is a major issue. But again, where are the voters on this, right? There's still a possibility that Labor will be voted in again. So people have been seeing this now for the last 10 years in Victoria, and consecutively Labor governments have gone in to elections and won elections when they've been very soft on these crimes. So part of it, I believe, as much as we can blame the government, we can blame the culprits, people are ultimately, the society rest of us are to blame as well. People that continue to vote in these governments that don't voice our opinions on this and don't make it an issue that makes governments uncomfortable. I think there's a little bit of discomfort now for Jacinta Allen on this particular point, which is why she did the whole, backflip with the machete ban. She's trying to look in the public sphere at least like she's doing something. But I don't think they're uncomfortable enough, and people are just putting up with this, and we don't need to put up with this. This is like a local shopping center. It's a fairly large shopping center in Northland, whatever. And everyone goes to the shops. We go. They were saying that car drove past near a play center. It only takes the timing for a couple of kids to be walking past that car to get run over. Yeah. And you have a massive, it becomes tragic at that point. Already it's bad. It's just because no one has been hurt that this issue has not become a, issue of national significance, let's say. But if a few people were run over in that shopping center with the speed that car was going in, who is responsible for that? Is it just the criminal? Of course they're responsible. Is it the police? Is it the government? Is it all of us, right? And I'm not trying to blame people. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, everyone bears a little bit of responsibility for what's happening in Victoria right now. And, consecutively, we've seen election after election, despite what governments don't do for the people of Victoria, they continue to win elections.
There we go. Super chat from Regina again.
Thanks, Regina. Ban electrical fires. Yeah, that would have helped Maya.
Yeah, for a second I had to think about the reference. That's because there was a fire there today for those of you that are as slow as me. Here we go, Baz.
Baz the Dark Horse, thanks, mate, for the super chat. Excellent interview with the lady whose son got his head kicked in. You tell the importance the media avoids rebel news. There you go, mate.
I appreciate it. Interview. Yeah, you can check that out, actually. It's about a week ago. It's called... They filmed it all and cheered. Well, it's actually talking about the exact problem that somebody else brought up in the super chat. But yeah, you could see where they beat him, robbed him, and just the family's forced out of Victoria because it's just they don't feel safe here anymore, and they're moving to I think Sunshine Coast. But yeah, it's truly sad. And the media. The crazy thing is, the media did interview the mum. And then they ran it as some little sound bites at the end of another story, and it was just horrible. And when I saw that, I thought, no, I want to give her a proper platform to tell the story because it is important. People need to wake up. Thank you, Baz, and thank you for all the super chats. But anyone that does want to see that interview, go to my YouTube, and it's the third last video from a week ago called "They Filmed It and Cheered. Mum Speaks Out After Refugee Gang Attack." Go.
This is from Ebony Jane again. Ebony, thanks for the super chats today. As a conservative, I genuinely can't understand how left voters and government are so pro-immigration of cultures that don't share Western values. Why do they push for it? They have to live in the chaos too. There is an element, Ebony, I believe it's kind of this kind of savior culture where for a long time Western societies, Western cultures, especially countries a part of the Commonwealth, believed that they can kind of, fix people or fix other cultures. And somehow, the great attributes of the West will just kind of be accepted and people will just want to embrace those things. But what we find is a lot of immigration today, we're seeing this a little bit. I saw a few clips of this Iranian regime person speaking on the media, and they're talking about how successfully they've been managed to export out lots of Hezbollah people into the United States of America. So there is kind of hostile element as well today where it's like, you can go into the West, take your culture, take your ideas, sometimes ideas which are hostile to the West, and propagate them there because of this idea that the West has about freedom and these concepts, which I think are harming the West in a way as well. And it's a very hard conversation to have, Avi, because we love things like freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of religion, all these things which make the West great. If you're a hostile person that wants to subvert Western society, you can take advantage of. What do you think?
Yeah, which is exactly why I say that the responsibility is on us to think about who we're bringing in, because we do have all these freedoms and they do use it against us. Like, again, I hate to say it, look at Europe, look at the UK, look at how they use democracy and freedom against the local population, the indigenous people there. And and turn it on them, that then ends up turning the place in which they've come, which for they say a better life, into the same shithole that they ran away from. It's mind-boggling that they even want to do that, but that's the problem. They can't break out of the culture. Some do. Some people come here, even from countries that are super backwards and with ideologies from the 7th century. Like, there are people that come here and do that. But the problem is, as a society, as a nation, as a sovereign nation, we need to have firstly the discussion without being labelled racist or being afraid to be called racist. And then as adults go, okay, I get it. And I even get that some people are going to come here and drop their backwards beliefs. But if we bring in this amount of people, like the amounts that we've been bringing in over the past few years, 3,000 Palestinians from Gaza this year, what does that mean for the future? 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years from now? What's the demographic going to look like? Because at a certain point, when you do bring in too many that do believe in those things, and you can't control it, if they're coming from a culture that does, as a whole, mostly believe it, then even if half of them drop it when they come here, there is half that don't. And I don't even believe that half drop it. So I think that we've got to have we've got to have the conversation and then have smart immigration. Okay, have immigration. Smart immigration, people that will automatically, cultures that will automatically integrate into our way of life. And so the way I would look at it as a mature adult is I would go, can that population live here? As in how they are without changing anything? And if the answer is no, and there's no simple, easy fix, which there isn't in any of these cases, or there isn't something we've tried and tested that works to, de-radicalize or to bring them back to where we are and to really ultimately change their internal everything, which is near impossible. I just don't believe it's possible. Then we need to choose places. We need to choose different refugees to take in. If you're so, if you're so hell bent on bringing in refugees, all right, no, white South Africans. There's so many people around the world that are being persecuted that do that need the help just as much as these other groups that they want to bring in, but it's just not trendy. And so the left is, and that goes to the point in the super chat, why the left is so keen on bringing in these. Yeah, these
look,
it's trends.
It's trends, but there's obviously we're talking kind of a surface level thing. You can go deeper into this and talk about, globalization, kind of these kind of globalist movements and these patterns of voting that they want to, get through by getting immigration, like America with the Democrats and the southern border. Great example. They see that group as a voting bloc. So it is a way to change society and give people power as well by having this massive change in demographics. It does change voting patterns and voting behavior. So, you can fundamentally change a country if you're a certain, political party or a power group or a globalist entity and you want to change things about society. You can do that by importing in certain people that might not integrate so well into that society, but they will have a kind of a donor political party that they see as the one that will give them whatever freedoms that they want in the country, their way of life, whatever, that they'll vote for. So these things are happening as well, but that's a much, much deeper, longer, larger conversation that we can't get into today. But, obviously there's that element to all of this as well.
This is a good one.
Well, this is a very good suggestion. We should probably put it into the Constitution. I say we ban breaking the law. Of course, that would be ideal. That would be ideal. We did start even with the Holy Book. We had the 10 Commandments, but you see how easily they're broken. So we've tried for a long time.
How do you pronounce the username?
YouTube noob.
YouTube noob. We got wrecked by this last time. I reckon it's super chats just to make us read the names. Appreciate the super chat and making us look bad as usual, but it was a great suggestion. Murphy just threw in $2 as a super chat. Thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. Daniel Jameson as well.
Thanks,
threw
mate.
in a few dollars for the super chat just to support our work, so I appreciate that too. What do we have? Ted, go for it.
Ted Bullpit, thanks for the super chat, mate. Why aren't these Arab immigrants sent back to their countries to rebuild?
It's an interesting concept, because if you look at the Persian or the Iranians that are around the world now, like in Australia, for example, like I know a lot of Iranians that are here, and they're keen to go back. And it is a good question. Like if you came here as a refugee, because like now you are persecuted by the Islamist regime of Iran, but then if the regime does fall and in comes a let's say who they want to rule it, which is the natural thing would be the prince to become the king from the royal family that had it before the 79, and he's like an open free. It's just, he wants a secular kind of society, a great place to live, like it was before 79. If he goes back in, why wouldn't all the Persians want to go back? And I know for a fact many will. Many will. That is their dream, to go back. They're not actually here. They were here for the safety that we can provide them. But when it gets better, why can't they go back? And I think that should be encouraged, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the Syria was a great example. There was lots of comments when Syria kind of became more stable, when you had mass waves of refugees throughout Europe. Why aren't people going back? I think a lot of people were making those comments, like, you can go back. Now, there are instances where sometimes the people that take over, perhaps they have a certain disdain for a certain ethnic group or ethnic mix, and
that's why I gave the example of Iran.
Exactly. Iran's a bit different example, and you do see there's a lot of enthusiasm there for people that felt like they never wanted to leave and they were forced out, that want to go back to that society. And then there are elements, like, as a child of migrants, I would say, my father, for instance, his heart is more in, Sri Lanka, let's say, right? Because if you grow up to a certain point in a country, to your teens, to your 20s, 30s, whatever, you are essentially a part of that. Like, that's where you kind of pick up when you become an adult and a man or whatever. If you grow up younger in a country like Australia is fundamentally a much better country than many of these other countries. Like, I would say it's in the top 5, top 10 countries in the world. Even for me, I'm being biased.
Why did your father come here? Was your father come here as a refugee?
No, not as a refugee. Skilled migration. So
I think
he had options. There's a distinction, because he had options to go to Canada,
the argument,
US, or Australia. He picked Australia.
But the argument that I had, I curse him every day for that one. It was stuck with you. No, I'm joking. The argument here would be, and I actually think there's something deeper and a good idea in it. The argument would be for refugees, so that are looking for somebody to protect them, to save them from whatever's going on in their country, and that they really love their country, but they're just being persecuted now. So I think, like, one of the questions should be, when you're looking to become a refugee, and there should be a certain, like, I don't know how it actually works. Like, I think the process does take time, but in that period of time, if something changes, like, you should sign. Well, if it actually gets safe for my minority, for example, like if the government, like in Iran, is if the regime is overthrown and somebody comes in who is very friendly to our minority, and it is very possible, and there's no way that I would be given refugee status under the conditions now, then I would be willing to go back. And if I sign on that if in the first 10 years of my migration here, that happens, I am willing to go back, because like within a reasonable time. So you haven't had kids that have grown up here and become teenagers, and then things become complicated because your kids don't really want to leave, and that's not really fair. But I'm saying, like, 10 years, you come here as a refugee, you escaped, and they did all the checks, and they supported you, whatever, they said you're going to be good, and then the circumstances on the ground change, that it is safe for you to go back, and there's no reason you would not get refugee status, then why shouldn't you go back?
Yeah, look, I think this is the thing, right? Genuine refugees will go back, but what we have today is a lot of economic
and it'll
refugees.
cut them out, though. That's the point.
Yeah, it's that, and like a lot of these asylum seekers and refugees which are coming to countries like Australia and the West, they're not real refugees or asylum. Like their lives are not in danger, the way that they exaggerate them. I'm sorry to sound harsh and stuff, but a lot of the time, they come off from, relatively speaking, in their particular countries to pay for a boat or to do those things to smuggle themselves out of the country. You have to be relatively well off sometimes in those conditions. There's only been rare occasions, I think, in the last decade or 2 decades, whatever, where there's been really genuine asylum seekers who have had to flee because their lives are generally in danger of being killed or murdered. Like it's very rare instances. A lot of the times, in those times of chaos, people who have the means, the economic means, will try to exploit these systems, and that's why you have a lot of just men turning up, or people like southern border, right? What was happening in the southern border? You had people from China and India going to Mexico and then crossing the border. Like these are not genuine refugees. Like they are making a massive trek. They're often flying into Mexico or these kind of countries because they have the means to do that, and then walking across the border to get US citizenship because they can't get in any other way. They can't get in through skilled migration, right? They haven't done the adequate education stuff. They don't have the skills to get into the country, so they find other ways to do it. So the systems are being exploited. This whole idea about refugees and helping asylum seekers is a nice concept. We should offer asylum and help refugees and things like this, but the entire system is being exploited, and it's made worse by these activists that prop up these fake asylum seekers and refugees. Like it's just ruined. The whole system is just destroyed. So yeah.
Next super chat.
Beam me up, Scotty. Cool username, and thanks for the super chat. Chosen people, promised land, the end. Lawlessness will around in the end times. I've read the book, know the ending. Unapologetic Christian. It's a biblical reference to abound. Yeah, biblical reference to the end times, and obviously a lot of this is found in scripture about what happens at the end in Revelations.
Unapologetic Christian.
Jesus Christ comes back.
Good on you. Be an unapologetic Christian, I think. Be proud, even though these days they're trying to make people ashamed of their Christianity. I know that people have different interpretations of the chosen people, promised land, the end. But I tend to agree with you. I don't really care about the chosen people part, even though there's the interpretations of what that actually means. I feel like we were chosen to cop it for generations. But when it comes to promised land, to me, I'm not particularly religious. I know we talked about that photo that I put up the other day. But when it comes to the promise, like I say that you can look at even if you're not religious at all, you look at the Old and New Testament, and you can and even the Quran as historical recordings in a way, the oldest ones we kind of have, that tell us who the indigenous people were in that land. And guess what? Allah, spoiler alert, it's not the Palestinians. In fact, in none of those 3 books does it mention the Palestinians, but all of them it does mention the Israelis a lot. God bless. Yeah. Beam me up, Scotty. You're a Christian too. Do you believe in the end times?
Look, definitely. As I've grown older, I believe, trying to figure out my purpose for being here and all that type of thing has really led me to ask these type of questions. So yeah, there are definitely elements, within the revelations in those books and scriptures that I think many people can find some type of understanding or solace in. Whether that translates over exactly, I don't know, to like the situation we live in today. Like, I always hear this is the end time. Like right now, this is a perfect example. People are talking about the end of the world, like World War III.
The religious people say it's the end times. The Alex Joneses and co call it World War III three times a week.
But I can imagine around World War I, World War II, people who were also looking at scripture pointing out these same type of things about the decay of the world. So, I don't take it so literally. Is probably what I'm trying to say, but I think there's a bit of meaning there and things we can learn from that for sure.
To the Christians in the audience, listen, I think that Rukshan's faith sounds like it's wavering. We've got to work on him. This is disgusting, mate. Be an unapologetic Christian like Beam Me. a nice comment.
From Cuppa Time, thank you both so much. We appreciate you. Thank you, Cuppa Time. Thank you for the super chat as well. Thanks for joining into the show.
I think they just have to include you because they feel bad. Do you reckon? Or maybe it's the other way around.
I don't mind.
Maybe it's the other way around.
Cruel Intentions, a regular super chatter. Thanks, mate. It's white guilt driven by identity politics and the police being afraid of being labeled racist. Us native Aussies don't matter to them. There is a lot of truth to that. There is this perception, which doesn't exist. Like, it's so interesting, you know, when I travel to Sri Lanka stuff, the way that Sri Lankan society here views, and this is a country that was colonized by the British, for instance, there is a high degree of respect for Western civilization here and for, you know, the Australians and the British and the, you know, Canadians, whatever. Like, you know, people are looked at with respect here, and their cultures and the way that they do things are looked at with respect. Whereas you come to Australia and you hear the complete opposite, which is like white people themselves telling you like, hey, we're really bad people, we're colonizers, we're all these things. And these conversations aren't happening in countries that they colonize to the extent that they think they are. You know, people in these countries have moved on and are not living in that world anymore, if that makes sense. Whereas white people today in Australia, for instance, a lot of these left-wing activists still live in this belief that somehow, you know, I'm a victim, or that, you know, Avi, you're an oppressor or whatever because of their worldview, whatever. Like, there's things that they do in the West is just weird. It's just not required, and I think that's dragging Western society backwards rather than taking them forwards, because no one wants their crappy apologies, and no one cares. Like, literally no one wants that stuff. It's all in the head, you know. It's just kind of, yeah. Again, very hard to describe and explain. I've lost audio, Avi. I've lost your audio.
Sorry. That better?
That's better.
I remember during 2019, during the democracy protests in Hong Kong, there was a whole movement there that were, you know, advocating, protesting, rallying to be recolonized by Britain. They were upset that the British gave it to the China back to the Chinese, or made that agreement with the China, the 50-year agreement. So it depends where you are in the world to how you view the British role during all through colonization. We got one more super chat, and then we'll move on to the next.
Baz the Dark Horse, thanks, mate. Come on, lads, say it. Ban Bunnings.
I agree.
That would solve many issues in Australia. I think banning Bunnings would have
Mind you, it's just
less divorce.
Yeah, I spend way too much time in Bunnings, and I'm not even handy. Do you know, I walk around Bunnings and I just, like, I want to buy stuff that I could not use even if I tried.
Yeah, really, yeah. There's always something there.
It's also like, it's that, and if I walk into like a JB
gets me all the time, or Office Works these days. Like, I always end up getting some sort of I think the worst is Amazon, to be honest.
Amazon, oh my God, I didn't want to say it. Amazon is the worst. Because they've made it so easy. It's shocking.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to pivot into something completely different. The big news making around the world has been the interview between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson. Let's start with what Tucker Carlson first published yesterday to promote it. So this was like what Tucker Carlson obviously considers his biggest highlight in the interview, right?
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population. At all? No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay. Yeah, how could you not know that? I don't sit around memorizing population tables. Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government. Why is it relevant whether it's, it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant? Because if you don't know anything about the country... I didn't say I don't know anything about the country. What's the ethnic mix of Iran? They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute. It's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay,
actually,
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government. You're the one who don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump?
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here, because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
What was your take?
So much to unpack there. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Ted Cruz per se. I've loved the debates where Trump was just demolishing Ted Cruz. I mean, it's hilarious. But Ted Cruz has grown on me now, and I think Tucker's not doing himself any favors. I know lots of people that kind of hate on Israel and have very set views about what's happening right now, are fully behind Tucker and the way that he approached all this. But I think it was a bit childish questioning. It wasn't serious to begin with, asking those type of questions. And people might be like, oh, well, if you're bombing the country or you want to get involved, you should know these things. But really?
What does it make a difference? That's like, even when I watched that, that promo, I'm thinking, how does that make a difference to the threat? Even if there's 3 people there, even if there's 3 people in the entire country, or there's 300 million people, how does it make a difference to the threat?
Yeah. I mean, in the context of it, I think they're talking about more so like around maybe regime change and things like this, or a forever war.
But he said he wasn't promoting regime change.
No, he's not promoting that. But I think that's kind of the way that they're looking at it, like, oh, you should know these things if you're going to go into the country and all this kind of stuff. But it's not that, right? And I think the second part of that is really the giveaway where Tucker's talking about, because Tucker should know better. Like, we talked about this last week on the show, Avi, when this was happening before Trump kind of made the alluded to, like, we being involved in the US kind of really taking center stage. We're saying it looks very obvious, like the Americans are playing a part in this. Like, Tucker would know what that is, but he's trying to frame this in a way like, oh, well, shouldn't the US be? He knows, like, how this kind of statecraft happens, right? He knows during this type of war and America's involvement in these things behind the scenes, how it would be playing it out. Like, we know he's not an idiot. He should know, of course, but he's playing it up for the people, saying like, oh, well, shouldn't the Americans say something then if you guys are so intimately involved? And I think he's kind of really downplaying what this moment is, what Donald Trump is talking about. And people have said he's called out Donald Trump and he's apologized as well, because Trump did call him kooky last week, right? Because of the way he's sharing his views.
Who called Donald Trump?
Tucker called Trump and apologized.
When?
They've made up, like, just yesterday as well. He's called him, yeah. Since this stuff, I don't know if it's related to this specifically, but you can look that up. But yeah, he's called. Donald Trump said Tucker called me. He apologized.
Tucker Carlson
Donald Trump said to Tucker, on this particular issue, if Iran has nuclear weapons and they had nuclear weapons, like, what would you do? Whether you like it or not, we would have to fight. And Tucker kind of agreed with him as well.
Okay, I'll tell people to go and watch, because that is Tucker promoting it. That was yesterday. That was his best line, and it split the internet. People that hate Israel and super low IQ commentators think that Tucker somehow won that argument, which I even think in that particular argument he lost, because it doesn't really matter. Like, I wish, it would have been great if Ted Cruz knew that little fact, but it doesn't actually matter to the argument of whether America should be participating in an attack on their nuclear thing if Trump's being threatened. It makes zero difference to the actual argument of that. It's just like a side gotcha moment of trivia to try thing. And the other thing that strikes me in that is he's so aggressive to Ted Cruz, which he admits when you watch their whole thing that they agree on 80% of stuff. It's foreign policy, but 80% of stuff they agree on. And he's way harder on him than he is on any, like, since he started this Tucker Carlson network, I've never seen him actually challenge anyone except for Ted Cruz. Like, he's had bloody Putin on there. He's had Putin and he went way soft, like, there was no hard balls. to Putin. It was all softball, like, God. And then he went and did the cringy, like, oh my God, they got shopping trolleys here, amazing. That, like, and this goes back to what we said the other day. Like, Tucker Carlson has become this major grifter that has shifted his stance on all these things so crazily. Like, even what was it? I had something here. It's this one here, where he, this is just like another one of a million examples, which Ted Cruz then published. It's like Tucker Carlson in February 2012 going, Iran deserves to be annihilated. That was a quote of Tucker Carlson's, and you'll say, oh, well, he's changed since the Iraq wars. That's his argument, that he's learnt from the Iraq wars, the Iraq and Afghanistan. It's like, dude, that was after the Iraq war. So you haven't changed because of the Iraq war. You're just a grifter that has changed because you've found a niche market, like you did your whole media experience. Your whole professional media thing, that you've always found your spot in the market, and now your spot is grifting. And it's funny that he's going to call Trump to apologize.
He's interviewed like Andrew Tate, all these people, very dubious characters who have all sorts of issues that he could have pushed them on, which he didn't really do. And whatever, like fine. But when he delves into this issue, and Ted Cruz is a serious politician, people have different opinions of him, but he's someone who's giving robust answers. He's there. He's happy to debate. Like, it's actually a very good. If you watch the whole thing, it's actually
watch it. That's what I'm saying. I'm actually saying. I'll tell people, like, I'm halfway through it.
Yeah.
So like I watch it.
Very good.
I watch it when I'm exercising and when I'm walking the dog. So it's a couple of hours. I'm halfway in it. I say watch it.
He comes across like a mainstream like journalist trying to do gotcha questions.
Exactly.
It's against someone that he's set up. Like, that's how he comes across as.
And Tucker's answer at school. Like, I'm halfway through it, and if like I can't understand. I don't think, and I'd love to hear from the audience, like in the comments or anyone that's watched it, anybody that's on the fence who doesn't have a dog in it, because like I get it. I have a bias, so maybe I'm viewing it and I want to see it in a certain way. I'm watching it. I always watch these things. That's why I have ABC on all day. Like, I'm always trying to understand the other perspective, the other side, what they're thinking. And I watch it and I think, unless you're low IQ, it is so transparent how Tucker's trying to set him up. And we've got a couple of little snippets, I guess, that kind of demonstrate it. But I think if you watch the whole thing, you can see he's doing exactly what you described. He's trying to set him up, as mainstream journalists do, for gotcha moments. And Ted Cruz actually handles them almost flawlessly. I feel like he actually almost responds to everything. And then Tucker ends up conceding to things that you go, holy crap, you just concede.
He said, he shows off that particular point and people are like, oh, Tucker owned him, whatever, on the comments. But if you actually watch that whole thing, like Ted Cruz, Tucker unraveled himself, and Ted Cruz didn't have to do much to make that happen.
Exactly.
Like,
but if you're on X, you wouldn't
know it.
You wouldn't know it because it's the bots. Like, I feel like there's like major bots. Like, it's so or there's just so much vitriolic blanket hate to Israel that they're propping up, even when people are like objectively put in their place. Like, I don't think that conversation. At least I've only watched half so far, so maybe the second half.
It's two groups coming together, right? There's people who are genuinely worried about escalation and boots on the ground. Like, they're genuinely worried.
Yeah, and I think I think Ted Cruz answers that really well.
And then you have the other group who are very they're from the Israel-Gaza kind of conflict group that have been on that very hard. And now they're worried about U.S. involvement in Iran that would really turn the tables on everything if America gets involved. Obviously, it changes the entire dynamic, and Iran could get totally destroyed by just America's involvement, and the regime could fall, potentially, right? So they're worried about that. So these two groups together, and they're kind of pushing each other in a way to take this very kind of anti-war, anti-Trump stance. Because a lot of the people that are turning on Trump are pro kind of MAGA people, or you would have thought that they were very close to Trump, like people like Tucker. And and now there's
remember Tucker Carlson, but even Tucker Carlson, like, that's the thing. When I say I'm not, like, even Tucker Carlson, when it came out in the courts, he was saying how much he hated Trump.
Those text messages were like very disgusting about Trump. Of course, he's always been someone who's potentially.
He's two-faced. Tucker Carlson is not what people think he is. That's 100% clear, and I would encourage everybody to actually go and watch it. Unless you're like locked into a position, it doesn't really matter. But I think it's a great conversation, and I think it does answer the difference between the isolationists and the hawks, and then the middle ground. It does really unpack that, and it unpacks many of the conspiracies that are pushed. And on those conspiracies, Tucker ends up conceding. I just want to get to because there's a couple of super chats from our conversation before this, and then let's continue on unpacking this stuff. So this is going back to what
Ted
we're discussing.
Bullshit, thanks, mate. I live in the NT. 90% of crime is from First Nations peoples. Trust be told, we are now being offered capsicum spray. Why is that?
Yeah, that's what I was saying to you, and that's the government conceding that they've lost control and they've got to a point where they need to they've been forced into a corner where they need to give people the power to do something to protect themselves, and we're all going to end up there. But I you know what, I'd argue let's get there now. Let's empower people before we have too many victims. Let's empower people to stop that early. So yes. Totally agree with you there, Ted. Benji63 has just given us a super chat. Thank you. Baz has given us another one. Thank you, Baz. Go over it.
Goats are food, not family. I will just read that as a comment and no reply. I don't know what that context is.
I'd imagine it's something to do with the Middle East, where sometimes that line gets blurred.
No comments.
I've personally seen that line getting blurred in the Middle East when I was serving. So, I understand. Baz the dark horse, you dark horse, you. Let's Benji here. Benji's done another one.
Yeah. Thanks, Benji. Is Northland now the most dangerous shopping centre in Melbourne, or is it still Fountain Gate?
I don't know. Yeah.
I used to work at Fountain Gate. I worked there for a long time.
What did you do at Fountain Gate?
I was I actually my first kind of work was in retail, working in Dick Smith.
Did you?
During university, there's a big Dick Smith.
Is that why they crashed?
Yeah, it was just right before the Woolworths bought them out. I think just after Woolworths bought them, and then they kind of disintegrated a few years after I left. I was very good at Dick Smith. I was one of the top salespeople. So
you were the top salespeople for Dick.
I was top salespeople for Dick Smith. I was actually very good with my tech support for people. So people would come in, Avi,
I believe that,
with broken products, and I would fix them. Then they'd leave without buying something. So I was good and bad for the company. But I think overall I was a good person.
Well, Fountain Gate does have a very bad reputation. I think it's a part of Fountain Gate. I think it's a side of the.
I think Northland's worse.
Yeah, I reckon Northland probably now is worse. But Fountain Gate has its problems, for sure. But I do listen. If the last week is anything to go by, or the last 2 weeks is anything to go by, Northland is certainly worse. And now the next super chat. Thank you for the super chat, guys. Cruel Intentions has one about what we're talking about.
Tucker Carlson is basically the USAP as well. I mean, it sucks so much because I was actually a massive fan of Tucker Carlson.
Me too.
I still think he does, cool stuff, but I just feel like he's gone a certain direction where it is very much about, he seems very agenda driven, very motivated by his particular agenda. And I think Ted Cruz called him out a few times, but he does treat his guests in a certain way, like laughs at them or like belittles them in ways which are, I don't think, conducive to a good interview, if that makes sense. So there's things about him which are not perfect, I think, the way that he's gone, his direction, even though he's very successful, it appears.
Yeah. I think he's a bad faith actor, especially in this interview and in a lot of interviews. Like the interviews that he platforms, like people that are spewing complete nonsense, and he doesn't challenge them at all. And then he spends 2 hours talking to Ted Cruz, who is mostly saying like sensible stuff, and he's going hard at him, like nitpicking and trying to find trivia points that he doesn't know, like to gotcha on. And it's like, really? Why don't you do that to Andrew Tate when you had him? Why don't you do that to that Marty whatever that you know, or like to Dave Smith, to almost every one of his guests. He's never done that when it would be so easy to do that kind of tactics to them because they don't know what they're talking about it so across the board. But he doesn't. He did it to Ted Cruz, who I think, if you watch the whole thing, handled it super well. All right, let's watch. There's a couple of cuts that different people posted that I think are good. Let's watch those. But again, don't do this in place of. That's a problem. Is so many people just watch the snippets that make it to the clips. Like my little brother. He goes, because he goes, did you see Ted Cruz? I go, yeah, I'm in the middle of watching it. And he was like surprised that I watched the whole thing. Because I think most people just live off the clips. They're like, I believe the most popular clips are going to go viral on Twitter. And true. But I think also, even that one clip we just watched, it's interesting to see it in the natural flow of the conversation, to see how we even got there.
Exactly.
And like he waits an hour and a half to pick this part and it's like, well, really? Why don't you put anything where you look like an idiot?
Yeah.
All right, let's watch.
But I just want to pull that thread because it's.
I mean, that's so childish. Like, he's literally gone to the state of saying, well, why don't we just nuke Iran if this is happening? Like, that's beyond the extremes of what people are arguing against right now, what Trump is trying to do, which is a strike, maybe, perhaps, not using nukes. Like, Tucker's gone, why don't we just nuke them? Beyond all of that, Avi, like, the things he's talking about, there is so much evidence of that.
It's been widely reported. He's like, how's it not a headline? It's like, are you not paying attention, or do you just watch the Tucker Carlson network? Because it's literally been reported everywhere over the last 2 years at different times when it happened. And just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not happening. And then if it is happening, your answer is to nuke him?
Yeah. And
like,
Tucker knows as well. Because
how are we meant to take you seriously?
Tucker covered these issues as well when President Donald Trump assassinated the top general, Soleimani, in Iran. Like, he killed the top general. Of course the Iranians want to kill Trump. Like, they were saying, we want to kill Trump. We want to get back at him for killing Soleimani. Like, that was a massive thing at that time. Then we have these unsealed indictments where there's 3 individuals actually caught up in all of this, and that's covered in the media as well. We had, during the assassination of Donald Trump, the Iranians putting out videos showing Mar-a-Lago with a drone and saying that they're going to kill President Trump and assassinate him. These were things which are widely discussed in the media. So for him to kind of say like, oh, I had no idea about this. What are you talking about? If such a serious issue, why aren't we nuking Iran? Like, who seemed like the unreasonable person in that instance where he's gone straight to nuking Iran? Like, that's not how this works. It's insane. And I think that was a moment where Cruz really let Tucker expose himself.
Tucker exposes himself. And yes, obviously, like, his base will watch that. Like, the Israel haters, suddenly, all the same people that a few years ago would have been like, yeah, 100%, we've got to get Iran. They've threatened our president. We better nuke. Like, that same group that actually would have said and meant and agreed with America nuking him over that threat have suddenly shifted, like, into this Tucker camp where they hate Israel or blatantly say Jews. Like, Tucker doesn't say Jews. He's always just about Israel and AIPAC. With them, it's either Israel, Zionists, or Jews. Like, so the more brazen and lower IQ ones go straight for the Jews. The smarter ones kind of code it, right?
Yeah.
But these are all the same people that would go down that route. And it's like, no, even like Trump and and the administration are going, okay, let's be more reasonable. What we'll do is the group that have tried to kill me, to kill the president twice, what we'll do is we'll help Israel defeat them in a way where we have no boots on the ground. In a way that we can, and not even calling for regime change. That because a lot of people there have PTSD from Iraq or whatever. They're not even saying that. They're saying, let's just get rid of their ability to try get nuclear weapons. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, Israel is pretty much a US proxy in the region. Like, let's look at it in those terms, right?
Sure.
They are doing the dirty work of the United States government, technically, in terms
in a
of dealing
much
with this
cleaner
issue.
way than America ever does in the
in a much
Middle East.
different way, and it impacts Israel as well, which is why they are willing to do that, and that's what's happening. And when we hear today about why Trump is taking the road that he's taking and being tough on this, well, it's because it also serves U.S. interests. And
100%.
if you can take the easy route out, which Trump is a practical person, the art of the deal, he's a great negotiator. If he can use something like this to his advantage to settle this issue in a way that really benefits the US and the world, he's not going to be someone that walks away from it because of what commentators and all these people are talking about. And this whole idea around, well, let's look at Iraq, let's look at Iran, Iraq and Afghanistan and the past of what's happened. People voted for Donald Trump based on the fact, knowing that his view on Iran, firstly, and also that he is different to these other, previous presidents, and he might approach this in a different way. The US is acting like, they're scared of their own shadow and their position in the world, where they're so powerful, but because of the mistakes they've made in the past, well, they can no longer act like a superpower. And I don't think Donald Trump buys into that.
Which I think, Ted, if you watch the full interview, I reckon Ted Cruz actually articulates that whole thing really well. Like going, no, the whole point of no new wars or whatever is you don't want. He goes showing it's the matter of peace through strength. Like that's Trump was saying no new wars and peace through strength at the same time, because it means that if you're weak, you're just going to create wars accidentally from your weakness. So
yes.
So when we have to fight, we fight, but we don't do it in the way that we did, and we don't just go around trying to overturn regimes and whatever, and boots on the ground and crazy war, forever wars. That's what Trump was saying. But there is nothing new in what Trump is doing yet. And we also don't know what Trump is actually going to do at the end of the day, because so far all he's done is give Israel the green light to do the dirty work, like you say.
Yeah. And if we look at, for instance, during Obama's time, when we had Russia take Crimea, before all that, Obama had talked about the red line being, if something like that would happen, the US would take action, but they did nothing. So foreign policy of the United States of America and its military actions have always been all over the place. Like, these leaders haven't always got it right. And Trump, I think, as the commander-in-chief, as the one, with the keys to all these things that he can do, he also has a right to make decisions, maybe make mistakes. He might make mistakes and people might judge him for it, but people also have to give him the opportunity to do it his way. And I think that's what he's doing right now. And I think it's really... It's not unfair to Trump, because I don't think he gives a crap about what these people are saying. He's just going to do what he's going to do. But the way that it's being framed, and that he's making the same mistakes and all these kind of stuff, is just what's that based on? It's based on absolutely nothing besides what happened in some past wars. Like, it's just crazy. Like, this is not what Trump is talking about. I've never heard Trump talk about boots on the ground. I've never heard him mention anything like that. All I've ever heard about him was just saying that, we're going to surrender. You can't have nukes, and if you cross that red line, which you are right now, you're going to have problems. And he's enforcing the U.S. Foreign policy right now.
And isn't that funny? Region. In the same discussion where he's saying, "I've never heard of that," we got it about something that was advertised widely, and then he goes in the next couple of sentences, putting words into Trump's mouth about things that nobody's actually ever said. So on one hand, he's never heard what everyone has said, and then he has heard what nobody said.
Exactly.
These people are so disingenuous. Like, the way that they're arguing about this, discussing this and debating this conversation is so dishonest. And I get that a lot of people love Tucker. Like, I used to love Tucker. I've seen him shift over since he left Fox, to be fair. And we started seeing his stuff on that Tucker News Network. It was just getting worse and worse through every interview. And it became more and more obvious that he was there to push this weird agenda, not just with Israel, but just the way he handled a bunch of things, like you mentioned, Andrew Tate and all the... it became so clear that we don't have this robust journalist that actually is principled. We have and the way he did the whole Russia tour and that, like, it was a propagandist who has a clear agenda and plays this little game where he acts like everybody else is just so stupid and we don't see what he's doing. And it's true that a lot of people that love him blindly don't see what he's doing, but I think in time they will. And it's funny that he had to, I didn't know that, you said that here tonight, but the fact that he crawled back to Trump, because the thing is, Trump's kind of his last grift. And, I found it weird that Trump was allowing him so close through the campaigning when he was already saying all this stuff, but Trump was just ignoring it. Like, he was already like, it was clear to me where he was heading, and it was getting progressively worse. So I was like, why is Trump, like, Trump doesn't need him. Like, Trump didn't need him to get elected. He was clout chasing off Trump during the lead up to the election. But it's funny because to see him, I think Tucker is a smart guy and he's also aware that
that's why he's apologized. That's why
exactly
he's apologized
he is aware that, like, he's not as deluded as somebody like Candace Owens. Candace Owens is deluded. Like, she's on her high horse now. She's peaked, in her career, and she thinks she's like more invincible than somebody like Trump. She can say she's mugger. Trump's not really like, she's arrogant in that way. Tucker knows that he needs, so he's not going to alienate himself unless he really like, it might get to a point he will, but
Tucker knows the difference between him and the president of the United States of America, and that's
Candace Owens doesn't. Candace Owens doesn't.
Yeah, that's one of the overarching things that's really hit me, like, over the last couple of days reading all these commentators. Like, you're talking about the president of the United States of America. Like, a commentator online, us, Avi, what we do is not equal to what is going on there at the moment. Yes, you can have some type of influence on the discourse online and people's thoughts and things like this, but on a serious matter like this, that decision, whether Trump strikes Iran or not, is not going to hang in the balance of some, silly interview that Tucker Carlson does with Ted Cruz, and people kind of get all giddy about it because it, shows that, the Americans, they don't really know anything about Iran, so they shouldn't even bomb them. They're going to get into another forever war because they don't know. That's not the calculation that Trump is dealing with. And for people that think that is the calculation, they're really misguided, because that's not what's at play right now. It's a lot more serious. And of course, I am someone that's willing to give Donald Trump a chance. He's not our president in Australia, but of course he's the leader of the free world, and these actions do have consequences on the rest of us as well, and our safety as well. And I'm willing to give him the chance, because he is not someone that has taken in his first administration or this administration the country to a new war. He hasn't done that. And if the power and the might of the United States military and the Air Force and all this kind of stuff can be used in a way that stops wars from occurring or things from getting out of hand, that is the best case use scenario of that power. I mean, I can't think of a better use case scenario where you don't end up in a situation where you have a Ukraine and Russia conflict that costs Australia as well billions and billions of dollars in the aid packages that we sent to Ukraine. Like, that is not the ideal situation that you want to be in. The ideal situation is when you have these type of issues, the world power that is on our side, which is a Western world power, which is we're living in the West. I don't care about Iran and all this kind of stuff. I care about the West. The best case scenario is our leaders, like Donald Trump, do things which advantage us. And if that means striking Iran and ruining their dreams of a nuclear program and, sending them back 10, 20 years, while the people there might have a chance of regime change within themselves, within the country, not with U.S. intervention, then that's maybe a good thing. Like, why not? That's the way that I'm looking at this. And people, it's not always about these wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and all these kind of stuff that people are talking about the past. We're living in the present. Trump has to deal with the situation as it is right now. And I know the only thing that's blurring a lot of people's views, Avi, that maybe we can get into with a few more of the other stories that are coming up, is the involvement of Israel. If Israel wasn't in this equation right now, all these people would be like telling Trump, bomb Iran.
Exactly. And that's if you're honest.
He talks to you like that. Bomb them now. That's what they'd be saying.
100%. And if you're honest about it in analyzing what's going on, and that's why I encourage the viewers, like, even if you don't think that they should target, they should join or whatever, just be honest with yourself as to why so much of that base that would normally go in there and bomb it, why there's such a big backlash to it and why they're making up straw man arguments against it. Just quickly read Regina's super chat. Thank you for the super chat there.
Wrench for panda. There you go, Regina. Regina's always throwing curveballs our way. She doesn't know that we are not as cultured as her.
We're not cultured at all. We barely are. It became quite clear in the last episode that we're barely Australians. The white supremacists turned out to be right. All right,
and I just wanted to mention that there's about 9,000 people tuned in. Someone's having a go at us.
There's almost 10,000.
There's only 10 or 20 people watching. It just depends, guys, where you're watching us. We are simulcast on multiple platforms. So depending on where you're watching, I think, Avi, you're on Kick and Twitch as well now. So there might be a few people.
I don't know how that goes. I haven't even looked at the numbers.
Someone actually wrote on the comments I read, show some love to the comments on Twitch. So there's people commenting on Twitch apparently. So there you go.
I didn't even know I have anyone that follows me on Twitch.
To the haters out there hate watching us, we are simulcast. So it is an accumulation of the people who are watching across different platforms.
Twitch. Let's look at. I just want to see.
I didn't even comment on Twitch.
I don't even know how to. Hold on. I don't even know how to find it.
You just press the button that says stream on Twitch.
No. It automatically goes. Oh yeah, we're here. There's one. There's only one viewer.
Have you left a comment?
Maybe. Let's take a look. Hold on. Let's look. Did you say Twitch or Kick?
Maybe Kick. I don't know.
Oh, Kick. Sorry, that's Twitch. It's on Twitch as well. Let's see. Kick. Kick. There's only one viewer on Twitch. That was embarrassing. But right now we have 9,984 across our platform. So it's on a heap of platforms. Let's see.
X, multiple Facebooks, multiple X accounts. As much as because people watch on different things and people follow us on different pages and things like this. So just to make it easy for people to watch and consume the show.
I don't see any comments on either of Twitch or
maybe they were pulling our leg. Maybe they were saying to mention that we're on there as well to get people involved.
Yeah, but we try to be across all the platforms, but right now we're just about to hit 10,000, and yesterday by the end of the show we were at 15,000, so share away, guys, whatever platform you're watching on it. Like it, to help the algorithm, like the live feed on whatever platform you're watching, then hit the share, and obviously the channel, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. All right, we had a couple other cuts from this Tucker thing, and then there's a couple other things we want to get to, so let's get a move on. Let's watch.
I'm asking about your. I know you're right. That is a problem that I have. I'm sorry. I'm asking about your.
And the point is, like, you know, if somebody threatens to kill you over and over and over for years, what do? Are you going to wait? So if you get a chance in which somebody else is going to deal with that person that's been threatening to kill you for years and has actually gone out of like America in general, and then has gone out of their way to try specifically target your president twice, what are you going to do? Are you going to wait till they actually can act on their threat, or while they're saying they're trying to act on it, but are you going to wait till you believe that they can actually act on it, or are you going to preemptively, especially when somebody else is already doing the dirty work, are you going to jump on board and go, actually, let's get this preemptive thing gone so the threat is gone? Like, it's just such a ridiculous argument. I can only fight back when they actually are able to kill me, and maybe when it's too late and they do kill me.
Yeah, and Trump is actually all about that. Like, if I listened to his press conference yesterday, and he said, before I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter, literally specifying to this thing. Like, he's saying, these people are after me. They were trying to get me, but now the tables have turned, and I'm hunting them. And you're seeing the language. He's saying things like, "I know where the leader of Iran is. I know where he is. I can kill you anytime I want." I mean, that is strength. He is literally just posturing the United States of America, and that's why he says we. Even though Israel's doing all the work and they're doing all the heavy lifting, he's taking the credit. Trump's taking the credit. Right?
Good on him.
He might have waited. He made it for a few days, but he's like we now. He's like we're doing this, and if I want, I can kill him, and I'll kill him, and I don't want to negotiate. Complete surrender. He has the upper hand right now in this scenario, as far as how Trump is viewing it and how he's portraying it. and he's going to take advantage of that. And if you're the United States of America, if you're America first, if your president has the upper hand in this type of scenario against an army, again, I will say, that has been shown to be largely defeated in a way, at least by the airstrikes by Israel and the decapitation of their military leadership. I mean, that's a remarkable feat, what's happened to the military leadership in Iran by the Israelis. I know today there's been a few attacks that have gotten through and they've done a bit more damage because they're really going after it. But overall, Israel is in a commanding position, and with the support of the USA, now that Trump has jumped on board saying we and threatened the regime, I don't see why, if you're America first, you wouldn't back that, especially if Trump, when he's talking about it, is always saying that it's not about boots on the ground. He's alluding to what he wants to do to end it. So a lot of disingenuous comments by people like Tucker trying to frame it in something that is not right now.
Yep.
I don't think that Putin loves us.
He's such a little worm, honestly.
I agree with Ted. Like, it's just so disingenuous for these commentators to try to compare the USA and Australia, countries like our countries in the West, the countries that they live in peace and protection.
Imagine for a second an immigrant says that, Tucker's whole base would go off their head that they think that the country that they come from is actually better than, or even comparing it.
She is, like, to get to your point, he is echoing the points that are being made by, like, Ilhan Omar right now.
Exactly.
Like, that's what Ilhan Omar.
But you're seeing that, you're actually seeing that they're all, so Thomas Massey or whatever he is, tabled a thing.
Yeah,
and
with the squad.
And they're all, so it's like all those, like, Tucker super fans and Ilhan Omar, like, they're all, the shoehorn theory is so true. And they're joining, they're literally aligning each other with it. And if it, like, and it's clear that he's, like, when Ted holds him to what he said, he's like, I didn't even know what that means. Oh my God, you're calling me names. It's like, dude, you literally just said it. You just said it. Why are you gaslighting us? We just heard you say that you hate all the leaders because they're all killers when he asked you about Russia. So the most sensible question is, then, do you think that about Trump? And if not, so then your last statement is not true. But he couldn't walk that back, because then it does mean that he's putting Putin up on a pedestal where he shouldn't. Like, he is worse than Trump. Russia is far worse than Trump. Russia is one of the worst nations. Like, they are horrible. Every free and Western democratic society is better than Russia.
Yeah, and someone in the comments said, what don't we understand? Tucker is saying he doesn't want America to go to war. But your point answers that question, because Tucker, for instance, with the Ukraine-Russia war, he almost greenlights what Putin is doing in the way that he in the way that he carries about that interview, in the way that he responds to questions around that. Whereas when it comes to the US, is a different standard. Now, you can say that's because he's American and he's looking out for the interests of American troops and not getting involved in a forever war, whatever. But the point that Ted Cruz was making is that you can't make the same comparison between Donald Trump, your president in your country, and someone like Putin. There's a difference. And you have to articulate that difference and show people why you're making this argument. And they have not been able to do that. You can say you're opposed to war all you like, but you haven't been able to articulate the difference between this particular thing that Donald Trump may or may not do and the difference between what someone like Vladimir Putin, who's got a really bad track record in terms of how he treats his people and other countries and prisoners, whatever, and what he is doing. Show us the difference, and they fail to do that. So you have excuses and things for different things. So that is, I think, what Ted Cruz is really getting into the nitty gritty of. And again, Tucker just goes, "Well, I don't care about facts." He stopped himself a little bit. I don't think he goes that far, but he almost said, like, "I don't really care about the facts. Like, it's not about I don't know the facts. What's the facts?" So it's just a bit childish.
Okay, so the last one that I have of the whole Tucker thing, because I'm only halfway and I got this little clip because I just cracked up laughing. The narrative for the last at least 7 months with Tucker, guest after guest that he's had on, the narrative has been that this AIPAC is an Israel lobby that essentially really runs the US government. And so when they got into the conversation about that part, AIPAC group, which AIPAC does, they're weak. They're weak. They're not even like within the Jewish community. Many of us before October 7 don't even like AIPAC because they take such lefty stances half the time. But whatever, beside the point. Just in the context of Tucker and all those clowns on the internet that go on about AIPAC controlling the US government. This was their part of the exchange. And again, I say watch it all because it's even better when you watch it in context.
The Obama White House told every Democrat, pick.
He literally would make that case time and time again, and all his guests make that case, and he never pushes them, never questions them. And you know what? I've bookmarked that because next time somebody does make that case in his show, next time all his super fans are going on about AIPAC controlling America, actually, because Tucker, when he gets cornered, he says, I don't actually agree with that because he knows the truth. He knows the truth. He's just out for clicks. And so he knows what is also stirring up that base. And that base right now is just anything that you can say Israel's controlling everything, hate Israel, they are the worst, they are the real enemy. He says he doesn't, he says he loves Israel, but he obsesses over Israel. If you look at his content and progressively over, a bit like Candace Owens, over the months has become more and more surrounding Israel. And it's all negative towards Israel, and it's all, amplifying this idea that AIPAC is the one that's really controlling America because it controls everybody in Congress. And there, when he's given an example where from Ted, which he knows is right, he can't argue it. So his default position is, well, I've never actually said that. I'm just asking why you're controlled by AIPAC.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time he did that during that particular
he does it. He does it. Look, I'm only halfway through, so I'm going to, like I tell everyone to watch the whole thing. I do find it a great and very telling.
Yeah, and I'm reading some comments again. I mean, I know I love to read all the comments, not just the super chats. And people are saying, "Oh, I can't believe you guys just fully believe the American government," or you're saying bad things about Russia. It's not about that. It's we're criticizing the method of the interview and how it's done and the differences.
Compare the way Tucker Carlson is dealing with a conservative MP who's saying pretty rational stuff to how he dealt and how he interviewed Putin, or Andrew Tate, which you may not hate these people, but they are definitely not on the same page. Putin is not a free and Western democratic leader. He may not be, if you believe he's not that much worse than Zelensky, fine. That's a legitimate way to look at it. But he's not Donald Trump. He runs his is no freedom.
People are saying Putin's better than Trump and Russia's better. So I think in that
go there, move there, live there.
You can move there, you can go there.
But Tucker doesn't say that. See, that's the thing. Tucker plays his two-sum game. He plays a game where he says that actually Russia is not better than us. They're way worse. Obviously, he's a killer. But then when he's in front of him, he acts like he's there to sleep with him, and do you know what I mean? So he pushes Ted Cruz way harder than he does Putin, who he says now behind his back. So if you actually think Putin is good, you should also be angry at Tucker, because Tucker actually just called him a killer, and he won't say that about Donald Trump. So why are you not angry at Tucker? Why are you defending Tucker? Tucker does not defend himself. All Tucker does when he's pushed to a corner, he says, "That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying." What do you mean? What do you mean?
They call him Tucker Carlson.
There's so many examples when him and Piers.
His company came out with a statement. His Tucker network came out with a statement saying that there's no links between him and Qatar, and that's all made up. The boss of his company, strangely, for all these kind of America First guys that kind of bash South Asians, the boss, the CEO or whatever, the manager or whatever, is actually an Indian dude. So Tucker Carlson,
is he Indian?
For all his America First and bashing people like Vivek and stuff. I think they've done that as well.
And he was bashing Ben Shapiro for worrying too much about international stuff, and while he's traveling the world. Yeah.
He's been literally run by an Indian dude called Patel.
Yeah,
That's
is
the
so
truth.
funny. That is very funny. Like, the guy is the biggest hypocrite. He doesn't believe in anything he's saying. He believes in clicks. And if you're somebody that really does believe Putin's a good guy, you should also be angry. Like, Tucker does not defend his positions. He literally is a con artist. And just look, if somebody changes their position on everything every time they feel the grifter's moved, like, you should get suspicious, because if you really believe, if you're principled about what you believe and it aligns with Tucker now, well, you're going to be disappointed when he changes, when it's not as trendy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to
definitely.
something else. You've sent me this video. Let's watch it. What is it? Tehran? Oh, the Tehran mayor.
I guess we've covered some of this stuff now as well.
So should we should we listen to it or just move over to other stuff?
I just got some breaking news. So the Israel Defense Minister said that Khamenei can no longer be allowed to exist. So this is in reference to the recent, bombing of a hospital.
Yep.
And a few other things that have happened today. That's kind of changed the rhetoric a little bit from Israel, especially. I don't know how that will impact any decision by the US, but definitely it's getting a lot of coverage.
Isn't it weird that the lefties and everybody that's been banging on about Israel targeting hospitals, even though there were tunnels underneath, even though there were tunnels underneath, even though they've killed terrorists underneath hospitals, even though they've shared footage of terrorists taking hostages through hospitals on October 7th, with all the evidence in the world that hospitals were involved, they went mad about Israel targeting hospitals. Today, a hospital got hit, and those same people are either quiet or even celebrating it. It just shows. But it just shows you. It just shows you it's never about the issue they're saying. It's always just that they hate Israel. And you know what? You know why I have respect at least for the white supremacists, the neo-Nazi, the funny group that dress in black and like they're kind of cute all together and matching and whatever. The reason why I like them is because at least they're honest about it. They just hate you because of your skin color. They hate you because you're a Jew. They don't hide behind every excuse. They don't hide behind the bombing of whatever. Like, they just say, you're vermin. That's it.
Yeah, it's straight up. They're very kind of clear in what they believe in, whether they're right or wrong. But I think, broader to that point of how people are reacting. I mean, war in a way is like a equalizer in terms of human emotions and a great way to judge people. And at the end of the day, people pick sides. They take sides, and a lot of the propaganda that you see, a lot of this kind of baiting for sympathy that you see, and a lot of this what about the children? What about the children? Well, where are the celebrities now when the hospitals are getting bombed? Like you said, like it's non-existent. So it's not really about that. It's about sides. It's about agenda. It's about propaganda. And I am fully aware of that. My views are very kind of straight based on that. I'm an open book about my views, and a lot of the views that I have, Avi, are literally based on the fact that I am in the West. My major concern is Western values, is protecting the West, and terrorists and other regimes which are hateful of the West, like the Iranian regime, for instance, who hate the West, who hate our way of life, and who want to destroy us. They are my enemy, and I view it in those terms. So, this kind of fake sympathy and things like this, I don't do. You can judge me on that, whatever, it's just the reality of the world. Like, war is not a nice thing. There is going to be death and destruction during war. And even right now, Donald Trump has to make a decision based on his moral clarity, his views, and a decision that benefits the West and, of course, America. And that's, I think, what he's going to be deciding in the next 24 to 48 hours. I think we might see that progressing, because it can't go on forever. Like, we can't have this stalemate.
This is going to have to end fast.
But
Israel's shut. Like, the airport's shut. Like, this is going to have to progress quite quickly. There's going to have to be something major. Let's read a couple of these super chats. I got a couple of funny videos that I wanted to hit past you anyways.
This is from the real Dave H. Thanks, mate. Tucker ignores nuances. He just chants USA, USA. Yeah.
He does ignore nuances, but
he knows them very well because he's talked about them many times on Fox News.
Yes,
he knows them deeply.
Exactly. Next one.
It's from Ted Bullpit again. Thanks, mate. I'm here for the topic of conversation, not to be asked if I'm a top or bottom, gay or gay, Pobik Arthur. Why does this conversation have to swing to LGBT? Something's happening in our comment sections again. I think Arthur's got Ted riled up a little bit by asking him about.
Ted, don't worry about it. As long as you super chat, we don't mind. We love you. We ignore the rest of them. I'll see, you know, because we run now the comments streaming on the feed, you're going to get extra spam. Maybe the moderators will deal with that. I think there are moderators in there that can deal with that. Moderators, if you're falling asleep and it's all turning gay, please sort it out for Ted. But Ted, if we see you stop super chatting, we're going to up the gayness to force you to comment again. Appreciate the super chat. And one more before we go on.
That's from Cruel Intentions again. Thanks, mate. Did you see the clip of Islam country leaders in the UN burning pics of the US flag and chanting "Death to America"? I think we played that the other day, and that was similar to what we had the mayor. If you can play the clip of the mayor, I guess.
I've already scrubbed it because I've got so much more to go. So I want to get into this other stuff, guys. Remember, hit a share this stream, whatever platform you're on. Give it a share, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. We're trying to grow these live streams and appreciate all the super chats. All super chats will be read. So if you want a super chat, throw us a super chat on YouTube. Okay, next video. How the left is dealing with what's going on in Iran at the moment. Because who are the real victims of the world today? Let's watch.
And it's slow.
But let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
But where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing compared to the United States.
Keep hanging black people. So
it is not even the same. I couldn't step foot during this.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto and killed for
I'm sorry.
I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you,
I literally said it was up to the Iranian people.
Yes,
it is up to them.
And that's why I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good. Whoever does it, it's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
Not if you're black.
Guys, don't go to Tehran. Do not anyone at this table should go to Tehran.
Let me tell you about being in this country. This is the greatest country in the world. But, yeah, I know that. And we all know that. But every day, we are worried. Do we have to be worried about our kids? Are our kids going to get shot because they're running through somebody's neighborhood? They are not big deals, and I don't mean to say they're not big deals to you, because that's not what I meant.
And they are not doing well there either. They are not doing well in Iran. They are not educated. They cannot have property. They cannot leave States.
I'm talking about here.
Nobody wants to diminish the very real problems we have in this country. That is no one's intent. But I think it's important we remember there are places much darker than this country and people who deserve rights.
Not everybody feels that way. Not everybody feels that way. Listen, I'm sorry. You know, when you think about the fact that we got the vote in 1965.
Okay, they don't have free and fair elections in Iran. It's not even the same universe. They can't go out of their house. The women.
You know what? There's no way I can make you understand.
Let me try something. It's like try to reverse roles with a black person in this country, let's say, because I think that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Just try to understand from their point of view. From that point of view, this country does not do them well. Does not go for them.
I completely acknowledge that.
And
we shouldn't compare atrocities.
If you're talking about Iran, of course, is doing worse things. But relatively speaking, it feels bad.
Okay, but I think you know that Iran is significantly
I guess we're going to come back and talk. We're going to come back and talk more about this.
And I know what.
My goodness. My God.
It's so fun. It's so hard to watch. So firstly, what she's saying is cooked. And everyone on the panel knows it's cooked. But they're all tiptoeing around, and except for that one lady, I don't even know who that is, but except for her, who's saying, dude, seriously, are you comparing yourself to women in Iran just because you're black? And then her counter argument was in 1965 that it's like, dude, that's for 60 years ago. 60 years ago they couldn't. Today they can't vote in Iran. What are you on about? Like, you're insane. And it's like that she wants to put her victimhood above the actual horrific stuff going on in Iran in some warped way of defending the Iranian regime. And in the same crazy monologue that she has, she's like, I know this is the best country. So, this is the best country. So it's actually not on the same level. You just admitted it. But everyone there is so afraid to cross that, like, I can't be the white woman talking to a black woman like that because that would be racist and that's a microaggression. And she's the victim. She says she's a victim. Insane.
Yeah, I mean, that's everything that's wrong with, the problems that in American society, at least, Whoopi Goldberg is at the forefront of what's wrong with that society. Like, she's a great example of it. She should probably be in a nursing home these days rather than on The View spouting that kind of nonsense, because I don't think she's all there.
It is really kind of entertaining, you got to say. It's so mad, it's entertaining.
It's just manic. It's just insane. The comparison, of course, is not in any way comparable to what is happening in Iran in any measure whatsoever. Yes, the past in the US, there's been all types of horrific issues, but those are things that they've gotten over and gotten through, which is what, places like the women in Iran, for instance, are looking for that progress maybe, or to go back to what it was like, whatever way you want to say it. So, the way that they carry these arguments, I think, doesn't do the whole issue that well. Like, that other woman that was trying to make these points, they're completely dismissing it. Like, you'd think they would want to talk about the suffering of the women in that country. But we've seen time and time again, when it comes to feminists and Western women that talk about this issue, they don't really understand what it must be like for those women to be going through that particular issue. Like, they dismiss it. Very rarely do they bring up the issue when it comes to the head veils and some of the murders and the rapes that happen to people that speak out in that country because of the oppressive regime. But it's not something that they're on the streets protesting about and, fighting for. This is a great chance for these people, this, whole Me Too movement, this whole group, to stand up for these women and really push hard against it and protest and get on the streets. But no, what are they doing? They're doing the exact opposite. When it comes to freeing these women, it's not about that anymore. It's about something. It's about supporting this oppressive regime in some instances, like some of the protests that we're seeing. I
was super proud of my tweet when I shared it. Send it to Iran. Let's see how far she begs for the systemic oppression of Beverly Hills.
She's been in Sister Act in the movie. She's worn the whole garb before everything covered, so she might be wanting to go back to a little bit of that as well.
Such insanity. Anyways, go on. Yeah, what were we saying? Sorry, I cut you off.
Nah, it's all right. It's just complete nonsense. I mean, they just can't help themselves, that show. And I want to see what Trump, if he says anything about The View.
Oh my God, they're not. Okay, speaking of unhinged responses to all of that, I've got a couple of unhinged responses. We're gonna let's watch this unhinged response from one of our most on our side. The unhinged from our side.
LG19 writes, serious question, will there be jobs or community military members can join when I get a dishonorable discharge for not contributing to delete people or my body for the interests of a certain foreign nation benefit? I love this question. I do believe that if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares? Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land? You now have the benefit of 2020. You can see, think about those men and those women who died because they were pitched that they were serving their country because there were weapons of mass destruction, right? They were serving their country because the Taliban, they were serving their country, whatever, and these people gave up their lives. And ask yourselves, for what? And the answer to that question is for the elites. They're like toy soldiers. And I would have said a few weeks ago that Trump would never do that to you. He would never just throw you into an Israeli war. But right now, our planes are flying in the sky, and things are going nuclear. So I don't have that confidence anymore. And I'm comfortable with people being dishonorably discharged because the dishonor has come from our politicians. The dishonor has come from our politicians who routinely lie in our faces and are willing to let us die to serve their financial interests. So why don't they dishonorably discharge themselves from public office?
What's your response to that?
It's probably even illegal, the kind of stuff that she's talking about and saying for the military to do. I don't think she, encouraging. I don't think she really understands what the role of the military is.
I don't know the legality of it, but it's just
just in general. Yeah,
it's so unhinged. It's her hate for Israel and Jews has made her absolutely unhinged. And the thing is, it goes back to what was that? No one's even talking about boots on the ground there.
Yeah.
What are you even talking?
She's asking for the U.S. military, pretty much the army personnel in the country, to turn against the president of the United States, their chief commander. Like, it's traitorous type of language. Like, during a time like this, because if she has some certain view that is somewhat she can maybe make connections, but most of it seems to be in her mind and in her opinions, and based on that, she's saying, "Oh well, just get honorably discharged. Don't listen to commands. Leave." Leave the Iranian regime as is. There's no threat to you in America. Don't look at anything that your president's telling you. It's all lies. Listen to us, podcasters and commentators. We are now the go-to source for foreign policy. Completely crazy.
She's become more unhinged than what she used to make fun of. Like, if you watch old Candace, she would have ripped into this person and mocked the crap out of him. Okay, read a couple of super chats.
This is from Regina. Needs to be a moderator. So maybe there's someone called in there. You can appoint moderators. Maybe down the track, based on community involvement, we will add some moderators in there.
Idea. That's a good idea because, Daniel drops the ball. I wonder if there's a way to see who's actually engaging properly and then do it without, or maybe Daniel can do it for us. We'll take a look at that. I do like the idea of that. Sharing the load to just to stop spammers from kind of ruining the comments, the chat for everyone. So we'll take a look at that. Thank you. But
we've got some breaking news from Australia as well. Sorry, just Australian breaking news.
Yeah, go on.
John Pasuto has settled his defamation payments to Moira Deeming. He's got a loan from the Liberal Party. It looks like.
From the actual Liberal Party.
Yeah, Victorian Liberals bail out John Pasuto with $1.5 million loan. The actual party has...
Was it the party or was it Victorian Liberals as in Liberal personality?
Let me have a read of the...
Have a read. I think that's important.
No, it says the party approves last-minute loan to help former leader pay. So the party is paying this dude, Pasuto, the Wikipedia guy, who defamed the women on his own party, calling them all Nazis. They're paying for it.
And if she lost, would they pay for her?
No, of course not.
I know. That was a rhetorical question. I was just saying that to point it out. That's it. Come on, Brad Batten. I don't know.
I don't think it's tax funded per se, but they must collect money through the tax system as well. But yeah.
Okay. No. Disappointing again. The Liberal Party. I would have thought under Brad Batten that would not be. I get his power broking some stuff, but mate. Come on, pull your heads in. That was a John Pasuto problem. I get you trying to save the seat, but that's not the way to do it. Anyways,
and also breaking news from the Iran-Israel conflict as well. So, seems like Iran wants to negotiate some type of deal, but involving UK, France, and some other countries, not the USA. So they want to have some sort of talks excluding the USA.
Good luck. Good luck getting that one past Trump. It's like they literally are cavemen. What is their level of diplomacy? Trump gave them every chance for diplomacy, and they thought they were still dealing with Obama. Like they could just muck him around, and they still think they can. It seems. So anyways, I think Trump's going to take that as well as you'd imagine. One about Whoopi here from our good friend Cruel Intentions.
Whoopi's victimhood has peaked at nuclear narcissist levels. Yeah, we should probably test her for nuclear weapons. Narcissism is off the charts.
That's what Iran could come back and say. What? You've got nuclear weapons walking on TV. Appreciate the super chat as usual. And one more here.
This is from Baz the Dark Horse again. Being black in America is like being a goat in Iran, in Whoopi Goldberg's. I think he's trying to paraphrase what Whoopi Goldberg's saying.
Being black in America is like being a goat. Yeah.
Look, I don't want to get into that, but we have monuments.
I love our
there's a monument to George Floyd, like a dude that put a knife to a pregnant lady has a monument in the United States of America. Like, it's not comparable to anything in Iran.
Yeah,
it's
to
like
any of the oppressed people in Iran have a monument in Iran.
No.
It's like did you see that post by LGBTI Australia? Did you see that?
Yes. Yeah, pull that up because that's ridiculous.
I will pull that. That is so funny, and because it's relevant to Australia. Hold on, let me pull it up. 1 second. So it is.
I'll pull it up. I'll just keep reading. I'll keep reading headlines. Israel brands Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei as modern Hitler who cannot continue to exist. So this is following the bombing of the hospital.
Here we go. So here we got the LGBTI Rights Australia posted on Facebook, Iran has the right to defend itself. So just let that sit for a second. This is a group that purports to fight for LGBTI. What's I? Intersex, is it?
Must be intersex.
What about plus?
I don't know. They don't have the plus and stuff.
They don't
I think they have a problem with the plus.
They don't care about the rest of them. LGBTI Rights Australia, who purports to fight for the rights of all these marginalized communities that get murdered in Iran. So they have no right. They have no right to exist in Iran. They're fighting for their right for their murderer's right to defend itself. What did I write? I'm sure all the LGBTI people the Islamist regime in Iran executed are thrilled you're out here fighting for the rights of their murderers. Like, it is beyond a parody at this point. These leftists, these virtue signalers do not actually care. Like, they care more about their hatred for Israel, Jews, Zionists than they do about caring for their own people. They hate Jews more than they love their fellow gays. Let that sink in.
And in Israel, like, you can be like, fully gay. I don't know if this is real, but there was a video saying that they were organizing a gay orgy in one of the bunkers during the bombing. Like I was saying, it's a free country where
it's a free democratic.
It's like progressive in the way that these kind of organizations want the world to be progressive.
I have a gay brother that lives in Tel Aviv. That is their life, just like it can be in Australia. I am unlike Babette. I don't have a problem with gay people. It's not my flavour. I think in a free country, live and let live. Adults have the right to consent to their own thing. I have a problem when you're trying to indoctrinate children or sexualize children or tell me that I have to accept that a man is a woman and a woman is a man. Or that women or men can be in women's spaces or women's sports. I have a problem with all that. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. I don't know how you are attracted to that because that grosses me out. But you do you. You do you. And in Israel, that's the way it is. And I actually support that. I think that I cherish our way of life here in Australia in the fact that we all get to be who we are and we're all... as adults, we have the right to choose. And Iran, you don't get that. So the idea that this gay rights group is calling on their murderers to take out, to kill, to target the only people in the Middle East that would defend them. The irony, the backwardness of all of that is astonishing. Anyways.
Yep. I agree.
Okay, talking about nutcases, bad takes on this whole thing. There is no one better than Syrian girl who has gotten, just so if you don't know her, she's gotten every prediction in the Middle East, especially about what she was supposed to be an expert on, which is Syria, Hezbollah, and Israel. She got them all completely wrong. Had the most epic meltdown when she's an Assadist. She loves Assad. And when Assad fell, the 2 brain cells she had left fell with him.
Who benefits? Cui bono? I mean, look, the minute Trump starts to look like he wants to make peace, I think that his life is going to be on the line.
And just those of you who don't know, Syrian Girl is actually based in Australia. She's based in Perth. She goes on about Syria. She's been going on how much she loved it. She's a perfect example of somebody who came to this country, hates everything we stand for, and loved Assad. Loved him. And when no one knew Assad was going to fall, why wasn't she in Syria? Why didn't she go back there if she loved him so much? She came to this country and just to hate everything we stand for. Anyways, that's the context of this nutcase. Israelis going to
false flag and kill him. Like that, it's obvious that they want to manufacture consent for war with Iran. So this notion that Iran's going to be the one that killed Trump, no, Israel is the most likely suspect. Look,
why would Israel kill Trump? He's the best thing that's happened to Israel in a very long time.
Apparently, he's owned by them, but apparently they're going to kill him. And Iran would never kill Trump, of course. They'd never assassinate him, like what Tucker was saying. But definitely, Israel would kill Trump. Like
and I love the new narrative of the manufactured consent. It's like such a lefty. That used to be a lefty argument. Now this like woke right has taken it on. Shoe-on theory, proven again.
Netanyahu came out and said in public that Israel is benefiting from 9/11. I think you could just Google that headline. It'll come up. Netanyahu said Israel is benefiting from 9/11.
Let's Google it.
Do you think they won't benefit from Trump being assassinated and kicking off the war and making the American people like agree for the U.S. to die for Israel? That's you've said it. You know this is the agenda. Why else would we be hearing about it constantly in the mainstream media? So I just want to say that, listen, we've been here before. This time, is there a way we can stop it? Is there a way we can prevent the U.S. from going to war with Iran? Like you said, China is gonna help Iran under the table or even over the table, and it's gonna turn into another Vietnam. Iran is a big country. It's bigger than anything it's much bigger than Iraq, okay? Population-wise as well.
And has three times and higher IQs, and yeah, it's a big problem. All right, great points, Syrian Girl.
Stop. Hold on. Did he say good points?
Great points, Syrian Girl.
Another cooker that has jumped from side to side. Like everyone's turned into Piers Morgan as of late because their audience captured. Like Alex Jones has shifted so wildly on these issues that it's crazy. So what does it say? It says, yes, Benjamin Netanyahu, then a former Israeli prime minister, did say that Israel benefited from September 11 attacks. Here's the full context. On September 11, 2001, speaking to the New York Times, he was asked what the attacks meant for Israeli-American relations. He initially replied, it's very good, then quickly corrected himself. Well, not very good, but it will generate immediate sympathy. He argued that the attacks would strengthen the bond between the two nations as both had experienced terror. So that's the context of what he was saying.
Yeah. And I mean, look, this is the thing. Like, a lot of these comments are taken out of context.
Yeah.
A lot of these leaders, like, when they make comments about the biggest one that I think is taken out of context, Avi, is they'll say, "Oh, Israel funded Hamas or created Hamas." Now, you have to understand, like, even in Sri Lanka, we had a terrorist organization. I'm just making an example of this, the LTTE, and there were points in time where the Sri Lankan government, even though they were fighting them, there were different points in times where the government tried to appease these groups and, create like separatist movements. Like it's basically a tactic. So, there's different times throughout a conflict that goes on for like, decades and decades, where you try to make peace with the enemy, and maybe there's another threat, or you try to, you try these different tactics, and it muddies the waters. So when people come out and say, well, Israel created Hamas, it takes everything out of the full context. And for people that don't know the whole history and research it, they'll just look at it in one way. I've lost your audio.
Yeah, I keep turning my audio off when I drink the water because everyone in the comments last time were making fun of the noise. They were telling me to shut up. So, and then I forget to turn it back on. But I think most people might appreciate if I just keep my mic off, to be fair. Let's be honest. Let's read a couple of the... And just to that point of whether Israel created Hamas, it's complete nonsense. But like you said, it's what they do, like these people that spew all this nonsense, they take half truths or little elements of truth, and then they draw and they fill in and they create this whole picture from little facts that are true. Like, for example, like when they say Israel funds Hamas, Israel never funded Hamas. They allowed Qatar to get the money through to Hamas because what were they going to do? Like, if Israel didn't let the money through in that period, then they'll be blamed for not allowing funds to go to the governing body of the Gaza Strip. So, Israel funds Hamas. Israel, no matter what they will do, will be condemned by these people. So what they're going to take is any actual mistake that Israel makes, and there's plenty that Israel's done wrong. They are a democratic country. They do things wrong. Trust me, in COVID, they got a lot wrong. But they take actual mistakes they make or things that they've done that they had no choice, like funneling the money.
It's like the CIA funding bin Laden in Afghanistan versus Russia.
And
then it turns out to be an enemy. They got to fight him. Like, it's like.
But even in that case, it was different because
it's different.
Read these super chats.
Baz the Dark Horse again. Being black in America is like, we read this one.
Oh wait, why am I doing that? Hold on, did I? All right, here we go.
Ted Bullpit again. If Whoopi sat around my blue heel, I would yell at my dog to get out of the way before she shit on him. Okay. We'll just take that as a comment.
That's a comment we're not going to get involved in. That's it's going too far, mate. But thank you for the super chat.
Baz the Dark Horse. Queers for jihad. That's a great motto. These organizations just take it up. The queer jihad.
Yeah. Well, you know what? As mad as that sounds, I've seen TikToks that are like, surely I feel like they're trolling, but today you'll never know.
Ted again, thanks, mate. Laughing my ass off with some of these comments. Love you all. Thanks for the super chats, Ted.
Thank you all for the super chats. Appreciate it, guys. You can keep the super chats going, and we will read them. Let's get back to this.
What I talk about is I'm really concerned about our president right now. I believe that he's in a lot of danger as far as the threats that have been made against him, his assassination attempts, and all these precursors and all these air disasters that have just happened, like with India, and they
those
had
lips.
a plane go down, and they're I think they're setting the stage for our president, and I believe deep down in my heart that President Trump needs to stay on the ground right now. He just needs to stay on the ground, and he needs to focus on.
I agree with you. I mean, if you're a long-term listener, I said on July 13th, they're going to blame Iran for this. They tried, and they're going to start sending surface air missiles. And then Netanyahu's pushing that. They want to take Trump out and Iran. Right. And I'm telling you, I agree at my gut level. Trump is in maximum.
You know what I find funny about a lot of these commentators, like Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, like all the ones, they make these predictions. So Alex Jones makes 1 million predictions a day, and once in every 10, one of them obviously ends up being right. It's like Alex Jones is always right. Even I've tweeted in the past that just because it's a great meme that riles the whole internet up. But most of what he says he ends up being wrong about, and but these ones, like, it takes really easy, like Nick Fuentes said on October 7. When the October 7 attacks happened, he predicted, like, what's going to happen. Like, we're going to end up in war with Iran. And it's like, that's not that, like, great of a prediction. It's an Iranian proxy has attacked a sovereign nation. Like, it's not actually a big conspiracy if that ends up with war with Iran. It's kind of, it makes sense that it'll end up in war with Iran. And that's what Jones is doing here.
Yeah, of course. And look, everyone watching this stream today, look in a couple of weeks, let's say, when Trump maybe has done something and it's resolved in a different way, and see what the things they're saying then about,
and see if they walk back their, World War III rhetoric.
They'll be like, oh, he tricked the deep state and he got his way. He had to do what he had to do. I mean, I've seen this for years now over multiple issues.
And none of these people, and none of these people like Alex Jones here, where they're blaming Israel, none of them will, one, give credit to Israel. Two, they'll want anything they walk back, they'll walk back to get into Trump's good book. And then they will ignore all the crazy shit they said about Israel that didn't pan out.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, Syrian Girl's a perfect example of that.
Oh,
she's
how satisfying! The most satisfying stage in Syrian, and it's where you got a real insight to what level crazy Syrian Girl is after the Assad regime fell. See, that's a great example.
Yeah.
Like, that was worth it. Like, we don't know. Time will tell what that regime now currently is. It's scary that he was an Islamist, but so far, like...
He's wearing a suit and he's trimming his beard, so...
Yeah, but we won't know how that pans out for years to come. But Syrian Girl's mental breakdown when that happened, when she spent, the good part of it, at that point, it was like over a year, just... mocking Jews, mocking anyone that said anything about October 7th, like actual horrific, the most horrific atrocities that were taken place. She would mock the Israeli girls that came out of captivity or that were in captivity, going as if anyone raped them. Why would you rape that? Look at that face. No one would rape. No Arab would rape that. Like, look at her. She's obviously a glamour, but she had zero sympathy, no heart. And then Assad, and she would call the IDF the diaper force, and like that they were incompetent. Assad fell without hardly a bullet was fired. Assad fell and fled, and she went into complete meltdown. And like it was fun to watch.
Yeah. And some people are saying, Alex Jones has done a lot for the movement. He's brought people to this kind of open their eyes and stuff like this, and I agree. He's actually Alex Jones is, even still today, I watch Alex Jones. He's entertaining. He's good.
He's entertaining.
A lot of these guys, I think they've fallen into the whatever trap it is now that we have on social media for clicks and ratings, and you just have to have this hyperbole. You just have to say everything's the end of the world.
Alex Jones in Alex Jones' defense, he's always been like that, and he's always flip-flopped on the issues. Like, I've never watched him closely. I used to go on. He used to always invite me on his show. I'd go on his show until I saw all of this lately. I was like, I'm not wasting my time with you. Like, my time is precious. I don't need to go on your show. I don't need your clout, like whatever. But I saw. But then when I looked, when you actually look back at Alex Jones, like, he used to say this before it was cool. Then he went and flipped the other way, and it's like and that's the problem. Like, when somebody doesn't actually stand principally on what they believe, and they're willing to go, back and forth on the exact issue, it means, like, why should I ever take him seriously? Like, I can't take his predictions seriously because he won't actually be held accountable to. Like, he won't hold himself accountable to him. He'll just shift. And he'll make two opposing predictions, and then one of them's obviously going to be right, and then he'll take credit for the. Has he brought people to a lot of the conversation? Does he say things that are true? Often, yes, but he also says a lot of nonsense.
Yeah.
Anyway,
no,
I'm danger right now.
Yes, I don't think it's going to be an air. I think it's going to be like a catastrophic failure. We got the Saudis that gave him a plane. And the different things. And I was watching a YouTube program here where a Chinese guy was going over to Pakistan, and it's on YouTube, about a month ago, and he was talking to the manufacturers. They're manufacturing firearms and stuff over there in Pakistan. And the one guy that was sitting there while he was making one, and the Chinese guy was talking to him, he came right out in the open and he says, "America's on fire. America is burning right now." And it just brought chills to me because I'm thinking, yeah, they've got some kind of plan for us, and I just feel that President Trump needs to just stay focused You need to stay focused on your program, because I think that your program is the best as far as the news goes. And he needs to stop listening to like Lindsey Graham and all these people. Because
no, I totally agree.
Now,
China wants this. China thinks this makes them stronger. This is really stupid. Somebody guaranteed to screw the recovery, which screws the whole administration. And we got to get America back. We got to get the economy going to make sure the victory's secure. Thank you, Joe. Syrian girl.
What does China want? China wants.
No, he's saying that this makes Trump being distracted by this makes China feel good. Like that's what they want.
I don't think China wants Israel, America targeting Iran. Iran is someone within their kind of inner circle. They're part of their group. So I just like it's dumb takes like that without any basis to it that makes me look at it and just, how do you take this seriously? Do you take yourself?
Yeah, I mean, Trump knows if he can, let's say, fix Iran in the whatever he's trying to do, it would be a hit to China. It actually benefit.
And China will take it if America manages to deal with this quickly, sharply, boom, boom, boom. China's going to take that as a warning, like, I am willing to follow through with my threats. So if anything, China's going to be worried. Like, I cannot understand how you see this as anything that China wants.
That's all these strong-arm leaders like Putin and Xi,
that's what they
Asian
understand.
leaders, whatever. They look for strength. That's it. Trump is showing a complete strength and dominance at the moment.
Read the super chat.
Jeremy, thanks, mate. Hey, Ivy, have you ever thought of why Pakistan is allowed to have nuclear weapons but not Iran? Why North Korea but not Iran? Let's question this, please. I'll give an answer.
I'll give you the answer. I don't think anyone wants Pakistan or North Korea to have them. I think it's just too late. At the point that we're now with Iran, no one was willing to do what Israel is doing now. So I agree with you. North Korea is a rogue state that we can do nothing about because they have nukes. Pakistan has nukes, so there's a limited amount of things. Like you saw that little flare up between India and Pakistan, and people were freaking out because they were thinking this could lead to nuclear war. They've both got they're both nuclear armed. So I agree with you. No one wants that, and the last thing you want is now an Iranian, an Islamist jihadi lunatic state, a backward state that believes in a backwards ideology and the most fundamentalist part of that ideology. No one wants them to have nukes. So you should be thanking Israel and maybe America if they join it, but Israel and America even at this point for the limited amount now from stopping Iran from becoming both North Korea and Iran. But if you're asking why they were allowed to, it's because there was no Israel there to stop them.
Yeah, and the best answer I've seen for this on anywhere on X when I've seen this debate come up, someone said you should look at why France is allowed to have nuclear weapons but Germany is not. I mean that answers that whole question. There is a difference between when it comes to these nuclear treaties that we have and the reasons that nuclear weapons are looked at in the way that it's looked at, because it can be used to cause so much damage and so many issues. And in Germany, of course, at the end of World War II, and everything that went down after that, they've never got nuclear weapons. I mean, America hosts nuclear weapons in that country today as a part of the pact, and that's how that region is protected with nukes or whatever. But yeah, they don't have. And Pakistan is neutralized literally by India. And the reason that Pakistan got nukes is because India got nukes. And those two countries literally neutralize each other, because that nuclear weapons is not for anyone else in the world but for India. And same goes for India. It's literally just for Pakistan, and that just kind of keeps those two states as is. But they don't cause too much of an issue to the rest of the world, if I'm being completely honest. You don't hear Pakistan making threats to nuke other parts of the world. Till recently, you heard some mumblings from some people there, but I don't know if you saw, Avi, India's not very happy about this, but Trump actually met with one of the generals from the Pakistani military just yesterday as well. They came for lunch. And that's very interesting, because you're seeing all this kind of stuff between Iran and Pakistan, but Trump is, getting Pakistan on his side as well for this whole thing.
I have faith in what he's playing. I have faith in
he's playing a long game, and he's pissing off India right now because he's kind of met with the Pakistani generals. But I think Trump is again doing it for the best interest of, he might need to have airspace access over Pakistan to bomb targets in, whatever. He's just letting the Pakistanis know who's running the show. even though whatever they're saying. So I think countries that, the less countries that have nuclear weapons, the better it is. Obviously, the countries already have them. You got to either disarm them, and you can make an argument like, Ukraine was disarmed, and what's happened to them with Russia, for instance. So there's all types of competing arguments. But I think Iran has demonstrated multiple times that their sole purpose of having nuclear weapons is to destroy Israel, and that's a problem.
Exactly, and that's the point, that when all these, Dave Smith goes, or whatever, Mehdi Hassan goes, Israel can have, why can't Iran have? Show me when Israel has ran mass rallies, let alone for 30 years, chanting the death of any other group. That's the problem. When you have a genocidal government and groups, it's the regime. It's not actually the population. When you have a genocidal regime, they cannot have nuclear weapons. Okay, quickly, let's smack out these three.
From Regina, why can't she say this from where she comes from?
Why can't she say that? So, I think you're talking about something. There's a lot you can't say in Syria. I'm assuming you're talking about Syrian girl. I'm assuming. Because you'll get killed.
Ted says, Jeremy, have you ever thought why India won't play Pakistan in cricket? Are they real red cricket balls? They do play each other, but India doesn't go to Pakistan.
That's all that
for sure. They
now you're talking in Rukshan's expertise.
Regina, nukes are a conspiracy theory, in my opinion. I mean, look, there are conspiracies that the number of weapons held by these countries are inflated. Like, we don't know. They might have more or less. It's possible. Like, it's always been this kind of, it's a rollover of the Cold War period, really, especially the weapons that the US and Russia has amassed, and no one really knows for sure, really, on 100%.
All right, let's watch a couple more minutes of this, and then we might wrap up for the night.
An Israeli or deep state false flag killed Trump, blame Iran. I predicted they would start pushing it before they did. Now we're here.
Who benefits? Cubono. I mean, look, the minute Trump starts to look like he wants to make peace, I think that his life is going to be on the line. Israelis going to false flag and kill him. Like that, it's obvious that they want to manufacture consent for war with Iran.
Manufacture consent again.
This notion that Iran's going to be the one that killed Trump, no, Israel is the most likely suspect. Look, Netanyahu came out and said in public that Israel is benefiting from 9/11. I think you can just Google that headline. It'll come up. Netanyahu said Israel is benefiting from 9/11. Don't you think they won't benefit from Trump being assassinated and kicking off the war and making the American people agree for the U.S. to die for Israel? That's you said it. You know this is the agenda. Why else would we be hearing about it constantly in the mainstream media? So I just want to say that. Listen, we've been here before. This time, is there a way we can stop it? Is there a way we can prevent the U.S. from going to war with Iran? Like you said, China is going to help Iran under the table or even over the table, and it's going to turn into another Vietnam. This is going to...
I'm so confused. Didn't they say that... I'm confused. I thought China liked this. Didn't Alex Jones say that China is happy because they're distracted? Oh, we've lost. Here we go. Rukshan, is he back? I don't know what's happened to Rukshan. Let's give Rukshan another second. It looks like we've lost our favorite Indian. Let's see. Oh, here he comes back on. Have we got him? Oh, we do. We've lost. We're back.
The hotel kicked me off the Wi-Fi.
Oh, is that what happened? You're using too much.
I'm using the hotel free Wi-Fi. I think I've
And they call me a Jew. All right, we're gonna finish in a minute, anyways.
Yeah.
Were you listening to that?
I heard the end of it. Yeah.
I heard bits of it. I'm very confused though. She's saying that China's gonna get in. It's so delusional to think China's gonna get behind Iran now, but
yeah,
but I'm not even laughing at that. I'm laughing at the fact that on one hand they're saying that China, Alex Jones says China's happy, it's good for China, this is good for China, but then on the other hand, China's going to fight with Iran. So how's that good for China? Like, it's just they don't care. Nothing, facts don't matter. They can be contradictory, and none of this is going to be held. Like, neither of those are right.
A lot of this is taken out of context because one of the first things, I don't know if you remember, that Trump did when he became president and he was signing some documents, he was talking about Iran because of all the stuff that Tucker said wasn't happening. And Trump said, if Iran does anything to me and it kills me, I've left instructions on what will happen to them. So they've taken that whole thing, right, as the pretext of saying that, they really want Trump dead because then if Trump is dead, that's when the USA will initiate his plan against Iran to the full extent, So that was just a warning from Trump because the Iranians were trying to assassinate him, which Tucker said wasn't happening. So all of these things that they use are interconnected, but they use it in a free-flowing way where sometimes it's real, sometimes it's not, and it's just all over the place.
All right, I think we're going to wrap up tonight. I've had enough of the lovely Syrian. There's a limit to how much Syrian Girl you can watch. Mate, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Thanks to all the viewers for tuning in. Remember to first smash that like button, share it so people can watch it after, and make sure whatever channel you're on now, hit the subscribe and notification bell so you get the updates. But tune in every Tuesday and Thursday night from 7 p.m. Rukshan, where can people find you?
Guys, you can find me at The Real Rukshan on X, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, but preferably X. That's where I spend a lot of my time talking about these things, and I look forward to joining you all next week on the Opposition Podcast and discussing more. Let's see what happens in the next couple of days, Avi. A lot of things can happen in the space of a few days. How things
and
are going.
I might go live, at last minute if there's any big developments. So make sure to hit that subscribe and the notification bell so you get the notification when I go live. You can go to followravi.com and find all my socials there. But for now, good night, take care, stay safe, and ignore Syrian Girl, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and every other lunatic spouting nonsense. God bless.
See you guys. Take care. Bye.